Well, welcome to the slightly late starting quickie edition of LAM Live for Sunday, the 20th of September 2020. That's a year we're not going to forget in a hurry, isn't it, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone else in between, because you know what? We're broadcasting loud and proud and going out to the non-binary as well. So everyone, as long as you're kinky, this is where you need to be on your Sunday. I'm going to kick off with a little bit of music while I finish setting up the studio. And we'll be coming back at 1 o'clock with the main part of the schedule. So hold on to your horses or whatever else you're holding on to today. In fact, let me just quickly transition across to the schedule for today so you can see what's going on. He says, where are we? Here we go. In fact, let's hit this with the mission statement first. LAM Live is a series of live streaming kink positive events for consenting adults during UK lockdown, a place where we can get together, chill, chat, catch up on what's going on and share some content from the stall holders, etc. We try to stream as much as we can during this period, but we are occasionally subject to content takedown, and there seem to be a few cockwombles out there that are stirring the pot, but bless. They've got to have something to do, there's nothing much else going on. So, what's going on around here? Well, if I can get, there we go. At 1 o'clock we're going to have our normal newbie introduction, a bit of an orientation to what LAM's all about and how to connect with us. 2 o'clock we're going to be going across live to healthy mental practices with the kink shrink. And at 3 o'clock we have a book reading with Zach from Dirty Sexy Words. And at 3:30, a couple of bits of news, an update, and a bit of a chat on what's going on. So, without further ado, I'm going to play some slides to give you an indication on some of the stalls that are involved in LAM events. Let me just click here. Oops. All of this touchscreen technology for Luddites, you know. Unfortunately, I have sausage hands today, so it's not working, but there we go.
I motel and apartment building. Cracked incandescent street lamps near turnpikes. I got a nondescript place that I'm telling you, you should spend the night. Where the water's warm and the chemicals, they flow out like poison. Where the girls have boys and the boys, they've got their husbands. Meet Captain Jack, he can get you high tonight. There's Beth and Susie too, they'll share the room if the price is right. Art Deco brickwork and neon signage. Inside the nights are long and the security, it's violent. Queensland, motel and apartment building. Humidity and make-believe, they sell powders made from strange trees. Your Adderall, it's the same thing. I walk through them all on pain pills. Laundromat district with the artists and the hipsters. There's a lovely girl that walks the street in a sequin miniskirt. So play nice and stay humble. Keep your business out the alley. Only drink dark beer from a bar called O'Shea's or O'Malley's. Guests arrive and it's usually my age. Out front, broken up by the plants near the guardrail. Queensland.
go. I think I've just about managed to chase the last cockwomble out of the system. But there we go. Right, a couple of bit more information to share. LAM bonds. Basically, while we're closed, we have a cash burn of about £750 a month. Storage, lockups, rental, subscriptions. None of this that we can turn off. Don't worry, we have secured long-term financing, but we are going to have to repay that back. So if you want to help us avoid having to put up the cost of LAM in the future, then get yourself a bond. It gives you the chance to get a discounted ticket to any future events, because for just £5 you get entry to the daytime event from the second event from lockdown onwards, and they're valid for 12 months. Also, a bit of an update, the Far Flung Kink Award. One of the things that we've noticed is that the people who tune in and connect with LAM, they're not just in the UK, they're certainly not in London. We've got people all over the UK, all over Europe, all over the world. In fact, about 52% of our audience are non-UK based. So I'll reach out to you is, hey, if you are ordering from one of our traders across this period of time, then we're going to automatically put you into an award, and the item that goes the furthest each month is going to get a prize. So August was a winner in Australia via Bear Bite Bondage, and I hope you're enjoying your prize. Throughout the live stream there are going to be several interludes, just basically background information on some of the stalls, effectively a little infomercial as it were, just to keep you updated on what they're up to and keep you in their minds as it were. And one of those in particular has been an absolute star and talent during lockdown, and not only is she one of the most awesome flogger makers, but a great performer as well. So I'm just going to give you a couple of minutes to enjoy this.
Another turning point, a fork stuck in the road. Time grabs you by the wrist, directs you where to go. So make the best of this test and don't ask. It's not a question but a lesson learned in time. Something unpredictable in the end is right. I hope you had the time of your life. So take the photographs and still frames in your mind. Hang it on a shelf in good health and good time. Tattoos of memories and dancing on trial. For what it's worth, it was worth all the while. Something unpredictable in the end is right. I hope you had the time of your life. Something unpredictable in the end is right. I hope you had the time of your life.
Hello, this is Daisy from Daisy's Floggers. I've been trading for around 6 years now. I sell mostly floggers and whips and plus size ladies clothing. The whips that I trade are all made by Alpha Whips. He's based in Germany, he's my best friend, and he makes absolutely superb whips. I love what he makes. He's so creative, his colours are fantastic. The whips that he makes are really, really top notch. My floggers are all made by hand. I select finest quality leathers, I hand turn the wood myself, and I also use really lovely shiny metal handles. I love my job. It gives me freedom of expression. It gives me freedom of time. I like being creative. I like trying to do something that nobody else is doing. I love going to the markets. I love meeting people. I don't think there is a better job for me anywhere. It's just fantastic. What's the best feedback I've ever received? Well, one night I was at a club and I was admiring a pair of floggers that a young man was using. And I asked him where he got them from. And he said he really couldn't remember, he'd been gifted them, but he could put me in touch with a really good flogger maker who he was close friends with. And after a long time waxing lyrical about this particular maker, I asked, well, who is it? And he said, Daisy. And I said, I don't know you. He said, I don't know you either. I said, yes, but I'm Daisy. It was really nice to get the compliments, and the poor young man blushed very, very red. But yes, I can make floggers. And if you have something in mind that you'd like me to make, I will make you something. It will be my pleasure. You can contact me outside of LAM either by my website, which is daisiesfloggers.com. I'm on Facebook as Daisy's Floggers. I'm on Twitter as Daisy's Floggers. I'm on Instagram as Daisy's Floggers, and I'm on FetLife as Daisy's Floggers. So you can always get hold of me one way or the other. I am around. It's just me in the business, but I do pick up the mails pretty quickly. Hopefully the website's up and running now. It's a brand new one. Had a few teething problems, but hopefully everything's working now. Otherwise, go through LAM and one of the LAM crew will get in touch with me and I can get back in touch with you. Thank you very much for your interest.
Hi, I'm Michelle. Chris and I own Trust UK. We started trading at fetish markets in 2000 and opened our online shop, trustuk.com, in early 2001. From there, we ship worldwide. We sell a variety of toys, some pleasurable, some painful. We use in all areas of BDSM play. And we love creating new toys. We're always looking for something a bit different from the norm. Chatting with customers at the fairs, hearing about their loves and their play preferences, inspire us when we're developing new toys. We get great feedback about how different our toys are, but we're most proud of the feedback we get regarding our above and beyond customer service. Dealing with queries and problems in an amicable and efficient way helps us to show the customer just how important they are to us. Our email address is trustuk.sales@ntlworld.com, or for other ways of getting in touch, visit our contact page on our website at trustuk.com. Thank you. Play safe, stay safe.
And that kind of brings us round to pretty much close on 1 o'clock, where it's our traditional time to welcome the newbies and give people an orientation. And that's not necessarily to say, you know what, you're new to kink. It might be that you're new to the event, because we do work things in a slightly different way around here. We're a little bit more kind of process driven and orientated, because you know what, this isn't designed on the back of a fag packet. This is actually a company that is established, it has directors, it pays its tax, it has insurance, and it has ongoing costs and assets. It's not like we just got together and went, yeah, you know what, we reckon we're going to do this thing on a Sunday once in a while. There was a lot more planning that went into it, and you know what, one of these days I will actually sit down and tell more of the story behind exactly what had to be put together to make all of this happen, because it was a challenge, to put it mildly, and in fact the day after the first LAM, I stopped working for the company that I was working for, and basically went full-time running 2 companies, which was something of a challenge, and I've seen my way through several of the global crises as a result. 2008 market crash, and other recessions, but there we go, it's one of those, it's all fun. Do us a favour, if you're enjoying this, you know, saddle up, slide that mouse across, you know you want to, find the subscribe button and hit it. Because at the end of the day, if you want to hear what's going on, you want to get the latest information from LAM, you want to hear it direct from us, you want to hear it first, you're going to have to be a subscriber. Because that's how it works, ladies and gentlemen. Everyone, and I do mean everyone, because it's a kink positive inclusive event. If you want to hear first, got to be a subscriber. Do us a favour, if you're enjoying the content, please give it a thumbs up. And equally, if there is something about it that you're really enjoying, share it, pass that content on to others, because at the end of the day, this is kind of what the event is about. So, here's a bit of an introduction. I'm going to talk about kink positive, a couple of messages from me, then over to a video from Phil, an orientation on the consent is like a cup of tea. You know what, doesn't matter how many times you've seen it, well worth a watch. Because there might be something different that soaks in this time, or you kind of go, ooh, actually, you know what? Yeah. Particularly when it comes around substances, shall we say, in consent. It's a very grey area. It's not as clear as some people claim. Don't get caught on the wrong side of it, please. So, kink positive. What is it? Well, it's LAM at the end of the day. For us, kink positive is what this event is about. We don't care what your gender is, your sexuality, your age, your ethnicity, your background. As long as you can accept kink as a positive influence in our lives, doesn't have to even be in your lives. We fundamentally don't care what you have between your legs, who you want between your legs, if you want anything between your legs, if you want to transition what's between your legs. We really don't care. As long as you are accepting of the influence, of positive influence of kink and us as individuals, then this is the place that you want to hang out, because it's just a chilled vibe. There's no dress code, streetwear is entirely acceptable, although if you want to wear fetish or kink, maybe take a selfie, send it in to us, there's a chance you might win a mug. Limited edition LAM and LAMchester mugs that you may have seen at some of our events of recent, if you've managed to get out to one of them. So, a couple of messages from me. Stay safe. Massively important. It's a very challenging year. Unfortunately, we are very social creatures, and this is a problem that interferes with that. So, think about what you're doing. Exercise some good personal responsibility. Look at the ethics of what's going on. Okay? Yeah, it might be fun to have a little bit of a blast, get together, throw some party with your mates, but at the end of the day, the rule of 6 is now in play. So there shouldn't be social gatherings of that kind of nature greater than 6. I'm reliably informed by a number of greedy girls you can still get satisfied by 5, but there we go. Stay clean as well. You know what? I'm probably going to rerun the workshop on keeping it clean while playing dirty. Because it's such an important thing. And I was talking with a good friend of mine this week, and one of her telltale signs is the cleanliness of a man's dungeon. Okay? So, obviously we need to do a little bit more education. Also, you know what? Be positive, be supportive. Send a supportive message to someone. Okay? Because at the end of the day, these are difficult times. And I'm not talking about zombieing up and, ooh, fancy a bit. No, ladies and gentlemen, come on, let's be sensible here. Support, be encouraging, ask how people are, and sincerely mean it. Share some of the content on social media. You know what? Oh, it can be an unpleasant world out there at times, and coming across a positive message makes all the difference. So be part of that movement, share some positive content, because you know what? Someone may share something positive that you write at the end of the day. If it's someone's birthday, and you know what? Today is someone's birthday. Callie from the LAM crew, happy birthday to you. Sorry we can't be with you to celebrate. It is the time of it, shall we say. But if you're looking for a birthday present, consider one of the stall holders as an item. You know at least whatever they get, they're going to enjoy. You know what? Toys like this, they're the gift that keeps on giving. So spread some of that love, spread some of that enjoyment, and we would encourage you to stop shop with the stalls. If you do shop with the stalls, in the comment sections, leave the comment, I'm not being a mug. And there's a chance that we'll put you into a draw for a free mug. Okay? At the end of the day, that's how we're doing it at the moment. Equally, if you do take a selfie, I know they're not normally allowed. If you post it up on social media, use the hashtag LAMLive, tag us in it, and we'll do a draw on Mondays for a free mug. There's also a Telegram group chat that runs throughout the lockdown, which is a great opportunity to catch up and text-based chat with some friends. Equally, we've got a little bit of a best dress thing going on. You send us in a selfie in your fetish finest watching Lamb Live. You know what? The prize for that one, it's more than just a mug. That's all I'm going to say. And you know what? Prizes are well worth winning. Someone was observant on the live stream last Sunday, and they won themselves a £50 Lamb cash voucher for the next event that we hold. Don't know when that's going to be yet, but it's going to be soon. Something to look forward as well on that nature. Some of you may have recalled the awesome Lamb Country Retreat that we did in 2018. We've got a booking in place again to do it in 2021. The hotel is operational at the moment, and equally this is not going to be in the normal season, so you don't have to worry about, oh my god, think about all of those people who've been through the hotel before. You know what? No. Smart move for us, wasn't it? We actually got the hotel the week before the season opens. So before us, the only other guests will have been in there at around New Year's. Okay? It's one of those hotels, the season closes, the park closes, the neighbourhood closes, there's no point in going to visit it, so the hotel shuts down for 2 months. So we're going to be going into a bright, sparkly, clean, spring cleaned hotel, ready to rock and roll. We're going to be the first guest in there, so we don't have to worry about who was in the room before us. Okay, and that's why this is going to work for us. We're also going to mix it up a little bit, and you know what? Trading opportunities are difficult at the moment, so we're also going to have a market on Saturday that will be inclusive in the ticket. And you know what? If you want to come down just for the market on Saturday, I'm sure we'll find a way of making that work as well. We may have to change up the workshops a little bit. You know what? We might have to actually create one of our private networks and share the content just with the ticket holders on that weekend, so that you'll be able to effectively do broadcasts. Okay, that's one of the options. We're looking at it. We've still got some time to play, but tickets are now back on sale. We had to close it for a while because you know what? We weren't sure what was going on, but absolute blast. Okay, a very long session, this one. Let me just check my window there. Very long session with workshops, and we're just putting that together at the moment for next weekend. Second Sundays of the month, well, you know what? Going to have a quickie, just like today. There'll be the Zoom Munch running, but there'll be also a live stream running from about 1 o'clock through till about 4:30. Third Sundays of the month, again, Zoom Munch running for alongside the stream itself from about 1 o'clock till 4:30. Fourth Sundays of the month, in replacement to LAMchester, there'll be a LAMchester live event, which will go out. That one will go out on the LAMchester YouTube, so make sure that you're subscribed to that as well. And then fifth Sundays, where they're available and present, there's going to be another quickie edition. So if you want to find ways to support us during this difficult time, there's the information about the bonds up on the screen. Discounted tickets to future LAM events, reclaimable from second event onwards after lockdown. Details up on the screen. Equally, there is a Zoom chat that runs concurrent with the live stream. I'm posting the details up in the screen now. There we go. And the details for the Telegram chat. Oops. I'm just going to pick those up from here and drop them into here. So, oops, that's slightly too long, so let me just take the end of this out. Here we go. Voila, so there's all the details you want. As I said, selfies are welcome. Take one, send it through to us. And adverts, just to give you a bit of a warning, occasionally Hanshi57 pops up at our events. He's a bit of a scoundrel at the best of times, but thankfully at the moment he's locked up safe at home. So you don't have to worry about him burrowing through the bottom of a bucket of popcorn.
Hi, Graham from Affordable Leather Products here. As you may well be aware, the London Alternative Market is offering advanced tickets as bonds to cover their costs during the time of lockdown. We at Affordable Leather Products have got 5 of these tickets. Oh, am I covering that over? What a shame. We're giving these tickets away. If all you have to do is subscribe to our YouTube channel, go to affordable-leather.co.uk/market and you find the link where you can subscribe. When we get up to 100 subscribers, we'll draw the 5 lucky winners and you can get free entry to a London Alternative Market when the lockdown ends and the market starts again. That link is affordable-leather.co.uk/market.
Hi and welcome to LAM, such as it is. What LAM likes to do is provide you with a space, place and a time to express yourself and how you want to be within consensual bounds. We can't do that at the moment because of the quarantine, so what we're doing is a virtual LAM instead, and welcome to that. We've got a lot going on. We've got stall holders on display, we've got different forums, different rooms. We can still provide you with workshops. So we are hoping that it provides you with at least a little bit of a fix to get you through this really dark time. So if you go onto the forums, you go onto wherever you got this video from, you'll find links to Zoom for the workshops, you'll find links to stall holders, you'll find everything that we can possibly get together at the short notice that we've had to organise something like this. If you have any suggestions, if you have any comments to make on the format that might improve it, then yeah, please do let us know. LAM is very heavy on consent. We like to make sure that everyone feels like they are comfortable and like they're not going to be pressured by someone. Consent is like a cup of tea. You can offer someone a cup of tea, but they're not obliged to say yes. They can say, you know what, I don't like tea. Tea's rubbish, I want coffee. And that's fine, that's their decision. You know, they're not under any kind of social obligation to accept your tea. In the same way, you know, if someone says, oh yeah, I do want a cup of tea, there's no reason for you to say, oh, you must finish that cup of tea. They're allowed to say, actually, I'm halfway through and, oh, I don't know, it's not agreeing with me, it's not sitting with me, I didn't want it as much as I did originally. And that's fine for them too. That's totally acceptable. You can't accept a cup of tea if you're unconscious. And as one of my crewmates would rightly point out at this point, please don't be unconscious at one of our events. That's not okay. We like to give you these hints, tips when you come to LAM so that you can navigate the world of kink safely, because ultimately it's up to us to self-police it. If you come up against a problem, if you let us know, we can do something about it. If we don't know, we can't do anything about it. But we will be there to have your back. There have been times where people have violated the rules of LAM and literally been thrown out of the venue. That's hilarious, by the way. Really recommend just being a voyeur for that experience if you ever get the opportunity. But that really does bring me nicely on to the rules of LAM for when we do go there, when we do go back. First and foremost is no photography. No photos, no photos. We say no photos. When I'm there in person, I get everyone to repeat it back to me after a 1, 2, 3, because it's such an important rule. You see, if you're just taking a cheeky selfie in the toilets and someone wanders into the background, just passing by, and that photo ends up somewhere on social media, on the Twitters or Instagrams or whatever else, then, you know, someone could recognise that person in the background on there, and if they're in a caring profession, You know, if they deal with vulnerable people, they could lose their entire career. Doctors, nurses, lawyers, carers, teachers, all those people we're really relying on at the moment are really vulnerable in the kink world, and it's up to us to protect them. There are some exceptions to the photography rule. We do have crew photographers on standby. We have crew who can help you take photos if the you know, on your phone, if you want to take a photo of something, or you know, you're looking at a stall and think, I don't know if my friend wants to put this up their butt in green or in purple. We can help that. Okay, we can give you that assistance. The crew works really, really hard to get you through the day like that. We put in a lot of effort just because we want you to have the best day possible. This is new to us, so be patient, this virtual event. And we hope you enjoy it. Thank you very much.
If you're still struggling with consent, just imagine instead of initiating sex, you're making them a cup of tea. You say, hey, would you like a cup of tea? And they go, yes, I would fucking love a cup of tea, thank you. Then you know they want a cup of tea. If you say, hey, would you like a cup of tea? And they're like, I'm not really sure. Then you could make them a cup of tea, or not, but be aware they might not drink it. And if they don't drink it, then, and this is the important part, don't make them drink it. Just because you made it doesn't mean you are entitled to watch them drink it. And if they say no thank you, then don't make them tea. At all. Just don't make them tea. Don't make them drink tea. Don't get annoyed at them for not wanting tea. They just don't want tea, okay? They might say, yes, please. That's kind of you. And then when the tea arrives, they actually don't want the tea at all. Sure, that's kind of annoying as you've gone to all the effort of making the tea, but they remain under no obligation to drink the tea. They did want tea, now they don't. Some people change their mind in the time that it takes to boil the kettle, brew the tea, and add the milk. And it's okay for people to change their mind. And you are still not entitled to watch them drink it. And if they're unconscious, don't make them tea. Unconscious people don't want tea. And they can't answer the question, do you want tea? Because they're unconscious. Okay, maybe they were conscious when you asked them if they wanted tea. And they said yes. But in the time it took you to boil the kettle, brew the tea, and add the milk, they are now unconscious. You should just put the tea down. Make sure the unconscious person is safe. And this is the important part again. Don't make them drink the tea. They said yes then, sure, but unconscious people don't want tea. If someone said yes to tea, started drinking it, and then passed out before they'd finished it, don't keep on pouring it down their throat. Take the tea away. Make sure they're safe, because unconscious people don't want tea. Trust me on this. If someone said yes to tea around your house last Saturday, That doesn't mean they want you to make them tea all the time. They don't want you to come around to their place unexpectedly and make them tea and force them to drink it going, but you last week. Or to wake up to find you pouring tea down their throat going, last night. But if you can understand how completely ludicrous it is to force people to have tea when they don't want tea, and you're able to understand when people don't want tea, then how hard is it to understand it when it comes to sex? Whether it's tea or sex, consent is everything. And on that note, I'm going to go make myself a tea.
And just a quick reminder that if you're looking for a mask that will last, a mask that doesn't mask your identity and your individuality, head on over to Jed Phoenix of London, available on Etsy. Subject to availability, because you know what? They are the hottest item going. But if you want to express yourself, this is the best way to do it. At the end of the day, the problem isn't going to be going away, so therefore be sustainable and express yourself. The only problem I found with them is that they suppress the googly eyes on the end of my moustache, but that's another story. But at the end of the day, what a great character and representative of the fetish scene as well. Caught up with Jed yesterday. We're working on a very interesting project, and we were discussing ideas on her pivot and change to a more sustainable way of working as well. So lots of interesting things going on there. A quick reminder that at 2 o'clock we're going to be joining Healthy Mental Practices with a Kink Shrink for our weekly drop-in. So if you have any questions, please pop them into the chat feed, send them through to the Kink Shrink via social media, because it's a session to discuss what you want to discuss. Yes, it often features and revolves around some of the topical items on the scene, but at the end of the day, it's very much a session that is steered by everyone who is present. And you never know what direction it's going to go in. Last week, that went deep very, very quickly. But you know what? That's what this world is about. There is a passion to what we do, and if you don't have that passion, then you know what? Maybe you should be hanging out down Wetherspoons with the train spotters. Just hanging it out there. I mean, well, also, you know what? I have heard that there are some decent train spotters out there, some real human beings who also are boycotting Wetherspoons because of the disgusting behaviour of that person. But there we go. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. It's all about having some fun. So interact, let us know what you want to see, what you want to discuss, and let's see what we can do. And equally, you want to listen only, then you stay on the YouTube. If you want to actually participate and be part of the room itself, then join us via Zoom. And today I will make sure that my Zoom connection is working so we don't have to audio feed it through. And just a quick replay of the song from Daisy, because you know what, I really am enjoying this, and it kind of summarises this year as well.
of a turning point, a fork stuck in the road. Time grabs you by the wrist, directs you where to go. So make the best of this test and don't ask why. It's not a question but a lesson learned in time. Something unpredictable in the end is right. I hope you had the time of your life. So take the photographs and still frames in your mind. Hang it on a shelf in good health and good time. Tattoos of memories and dancing on trial. For what it's worth, it was worth all the while. Something unpredictable in the end is right. I hope you had the time of your life. Something unpredictable in the end is right. I hope you had the time of your life.
Are you a superhero? Are you fighting injustice in this world? Do you want to kick COVID's butt? Then grab a mask to outlast this pandemic. If you're into the themes of punk, fetish, gender fuckery or neurodiversity, this is for you. Come, join the other misfits, freaks and weirdos, and celebrate your own unique expression!
Hi everyone, it's Phil again. Just want to talk to you a little bit about our traders at LAM. Traders in the kink community are a pillar that upholds the entire community. They produce and supply all of our equipment and toys. Without them, we'd be screwed. We wouldn't have anything to play with. And at this incredibly difficult time, we ask that if you can afford to, if you are in a position where you can purchase items, we are encouraging you to do so. Most of these traders are self-employed. They are not looking forward to the same benefits that most people get during this quarantine period. They are also looking at being, very, very curtailed in events they can get to, things like that. So we really want to support them, because without them, there's a hell of a lot less fun. So please have a look around, go to the trader stalls, links, go to their shops, their Etsy places. Don't be afraid to ask them questions. These people are some of the most experienced people in the kink world that I have met in my 15 years of running around and acting like a complete prat. And I love them all. They are amazing people, and we want to be able to do our best for them. Also, just a small note to say, if you see something and think, oh, that looks nice, but yeah, no, I kind of want it in blue to go with my outfit. I want it in red to go with my outfit. I want it, just ask. Most of these people make these things by hand themselves. And yes, that does mean they have a devilishly inventive imagination. So yeah, go ahead, ask them, do your thing, let them do their thing, let us do our thing. Let's stick together through this crisis. Thanks very much.
And just a quick reminder that one of the next big events that we'll be holding is going to be the retreat for 2021. I'm getting my years all mixed up. We want to put 2021 in there because, let's face it, we're looking forward to this year being over for many different reasons. But basically this is where we're going to take over a hotel in the New Forest. Don't worry, hotel is closed the week before. There's no guests because they're in their shutdown period. So we're getting them to open up a week early, exclusively for us. A bit of a test run, so the hotel will all be cleaned and sparkly and ready to be occupied for us for the weekend. So it gives their team an opportunity to have a full house with a nice bunch of people and a friendly atmosphere. Again, same principles. We'll black out the windows, we'll control the space. And it'll be effectively a little kink haven for the weekend. We're also going to throw in some stalls on the Saturday just to make sure that there's ample retail opportunities because it's a very difficult time at the moment. So there's the details up on the screen. Tickets are now back on sale. There is a waiting list. We'll be processing that shortly. But a great opportunity to either stay on site or at one of the other local hotels that are around. And let's face it, it's the perfect antidote to the current times because you know what? We're going to modify and adjust and pivot the event as much as we can to make sure that we can deliver all of the content in the safest possible fashion. That may mean that we set up our local Wi-Fi network and you'll be able to effectively log into the workshops while we're on site and see things live without having to pack people into the room, or we'll have a socially distanced live workshop and then an ability for others to catch the content online as well. And equally, you know what, we're going to go above and beyond on the screening and make sure that everyone who comes in knows what the rules are. We're going to test everyone's temperature, we'll do pulse oximetry where necessary and appropriate, and just do what we can to make sure that this is going to be the best possible weekend. And equally, one of the things when we were assessed recently that really shone in our favour was the guest information pack, because when an environmental health officer requested that recently, basically backed off because all of the information was there. It was all above and beyond what was required in the legislation, and that's what LAM has always been about, putting things in place to go above and beyond and to make the environment that we generate as compliant, as safe and as reliable as possible. So what I'm going to do now is just mix in some more content on the stalls so that you can catch up with them. The deck seems to be a little bit rusty today, so I'm going to preempt myself by just oops, in fact that isn't the right one there. He says it is very rusty with me on the deck today, and I do very much have sausage fingers for this one. But there we go. Oops, let's go back to there and play this one.
Motel and apartment building. Cracked incandescent street lamps near turnpikes. I got a nondescript place that I'm telling you, you should spend the night. Where the water's warm and the chemicals, they flow out like poison. Where the girls have boys and the boys, they've got their husbands. Meet Captain Jack, he can get you high tonight. There's Beth and Susie too, they'll share the room if the price is right. Art Deco brickwork and neon signage. Inside the nights are long and the security, it's violent. Queens Motel and apartment building. Humidity and make-believe, they sell powders made from strange trees. Your Adderall, it's the same thing. I walk through them all on pain pills. Laundromat district with the artists and the hipsters. There's a lovely girl that walks the street in a sequin miniskirt. So play nice and stay humble. Keep your business out the alley. Only drink dark beer from a bar called O'Shea's or O'Malley's. Guests arrive and it's usually minus their luggage. Whispers out front broken up by the plants near the guardrail. These walls could talk, they probably speak in Spanish. If these walls could talk, they'd share secrets of hidden indiscretion. If these walls could talk, they'd ask for a pack of cigarettes. If these walls could talk, they'd scold the lieutenants. These walls could talk, they tweet about what they've seen. These walls could talk.
You should settle down, pick your piece from the ground. Follow that ox border where the water runs clean. Dark sergeant, you want band in your post, it's long gone. The brass castanets, your pure conviction. You should settle down now, I'll be good for you. You mind that shit come darker days, they'll slowly stop shaking you. And you grieve for our heroes, cause no one knows their names. Yeah, but you and I doing what they change, your names change. Hey dog soldier, make your peace with the ground. Hey dog soldier, find where the water runs clean. Hey dog soldier, stand down, stand down.
good. You're looking gorgeous.
Thank you. I've got blue. I've actually got, you can see blue in my hair. I've actually got blue conditioner in my hair. Just shoved it on to make it whiter before I have more highlights next week. If indeed that even goes ahead, given what's going on.
Hello, just a quick one to say we've just joined in, so conversations about hairdressers aside, welcome. How are you?
What's wrong with that? I'm good. How are you?
Not too bad, not too bad. It's been an interesting and busy week, to put it mildly, and it's going to be again next week. Although, I suddenly, as I said that, it sounded a lot like Prime Minister's question time. I've been busy this week, and I will be busy next week.
Oh, so that's actually what one of the questions is about today, actually. So anyway, I'll go on to that in a minute. So can I just remind anyone who's here? So like, because we're not like loads and loads and loads, please feel free to unmute and join in the conversation. It's when it hits over 20, 30, it's just too many people to talk at any one time. So feel free if you've got anything to say. You don't necessarily have to use chat, but if you want to use chat, you can as well. Can I just say the basics? And that is that please don't wank. Please, I don't want to see any of your bits. I'm sure they're all very beautiful and you want to show them off. This isn't a pickup place. That's not what we're here for at all. And I'm just not interested in any of that. It's so non-consensual and it's not pleasant. And I do have it as a standard, like you can speak to everyone publicly, not privately, although I think you can chat to me privately if you want me to ask a question for you. But I've already got one, and of course it's going to be about COVID, isn't it, and things changing, because it just is, because I think that's so much on what is on everyone's mind at the moment. And the first question I've been asked, in fact I've only been asked one this time, so any live questions are welcome, anything you want. But I was asked it is an interesting one, this one, because here we're going to talk about ethical dilemmas, right, which I think are present in kink and psychology all the time. So when I first learned, you were given ethical dilemmas on courses, people asked you to sort of say, would you, for example, let a client give you a lift to the end of the road if you were leaving at the same time as them? And the answer is no, you cannot, and things like that. However, I find my ethics have to switch very slightly in the kink world, because if I'm at LAM and someone comes up and talks to me, I really have to think about that and what that means and how to play it. And there are certain things I will say and won't say. So ethics are clouded with morals and issues and all sorts of stuff. But let's just get to it.
I mean, if a client comes up to you at LAM,
yeah, one of my clients does. And I also have to think about it massively if a client is in a workshop. Now, people have a go at me when I write sometimes because they say, oh, I wouldn't want to be your client. How dare you use a story without their consent? If you ask any one of my clients, it's one of the first things I ask. Do I have your consent to tell your story with or without your name, preferably without your name? I always say I have a client who. And actually, they don't even know if it is about them. I have a lot of clients with very similar issues. So if I said, well, I have a client with an eating disorder, I might have 7 of those. And then you write it and talk, goes, oh my God, that's about me. But I only publish stories that have full permission and allowance to do so. So I think we have to take consent into consideration, but not become monsters about that either. And this question is kind of about that. So I was wondering if I could ask a question for Sunday's talk. So let's see what you all think. Having just moved into university, not even half the people are here yet. Already, my flatmates and other people in my building are having parties, breaking all the government guidelines. This makes me nervous and uneasy. What would you recommend I do?
Confession of past at this particular stage. The only time I've ever been a sub was when I was a sub-warden.
Oh, so wait, is this definitely recording? Someone else, write it down now. Take it.
It is recording, yeah.
Hang on,
I can see it on the live feed.
Let me just finish the entire sentence, and then you can judge me. Okay?
Oh, it's an invitation.
The only time I have been a sub is when I was a sub-warden at a halls of residence. So my job, for want of a better word, was some level of supervision and pastoral care over 150 university students in a halls of residence.
Oh, those poor students.
Absolutely. It was one of those double-edged swords, better the devil you know than the devil you don't. But at the same time, it gave me a little bit of an understanding. And what I would suggest to this person is now is probably the perfect time to engage with the student support people at the university and say, do me a favour, I've got a horrible feeling that accommodation needs to be segregated as to the party animals and the people who want to be compliant and follow regulations. Because otherwise they're going to end up with this difficult situation at the moment where if you've got mixed houses and some are agreeing and some aren't, and if you get houses where you've got 1 out of the 8 people in that shared kitchen area, whatever their configuration is, who doesn't want to engage with the raucous socialising, then they need to actually rejig the accommodation setup and put the ones who need that quiet space together and let the others get on with it. And
having had a word with some university type people like that recently, they're not going to. And this is part of the fucking problem. Because I think this question is threefold. I think is you've got an own person's anxiety and stress between rule breaking and not rule breaking. Then you've got their own stress of have they got anxiety anyway. You've then got the next question of should people break the rules? They're students, they're supposed to be having a laugh, they're a very small risk group. Why does it matter? What does it mean? All of those things. And then you've got the question of when you put 2 people together like that, what you've got the government saying is you need to split on everybody. You need to tell, you need to be a grass, you need to do these things. And you've got other people saying, don't be a grass. Because actually, if you're a grass, those people get you a pint of milk when you really need one. If you tell on them, they won't get you the pint of milk. So I think you've got, it's a 3 system. Like I've got a client, a young client, she's nothing to do with fetish. She's going back to Oxford. She's clever, very, very clever young woman. They get a draw in Oxford and Cambridge as to where you're going to go and how it works. And she's with a friend who is very paranoid and scared because she's got very severe diabetes. And so she's extra scared. And yet they're going in with 2 third-year students as well who they don't know. And this girl is sharing a kitchen with 2 absolute strangers. And they're also in a house, she's in a house with my client and another friend of theirs. And this friend absolutely wants to go out and party and have a good time. And this one doesn't. My daughter's about to go into a house with 6 people, including her. That's it. That's your government recommendation of mixing, isn't it? If they go out together, they can't meet anyone else and can't have anyone else over. So no one in theory can have a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a then friend, a partner, anybody over, nor can they have someone staying over or doing anything because of the guidelines. Plus the Duke Khan has just said, if you're in London, like it's probably going to change in the next couple of weeks as well. And what are you going to do? And it comes to whether you are somebody who grasses somebody up or somebody who doesn't. Just that word has a connotation. If you grass on someone, you're not seen as okay. But sometimes it's the only power we got. So like Zoe said, complain where necessary. I think you have to find out what your boundaries are and your limits and see what you're comfortable with. And like David just said, you can ask to be moved, but actually from a lot of, so I've written letters for a few people recently, sort of saying, you know, this person is very anxious, risk avoidant, you know, should they be exposed or shouldn't they? And that's because of their anxiety. Some people are really risk avoidant and anxious and scared because they've got things like OCD. And are really scared. Some people have got health anxiety, used to call it hypochondria. So you've got, and some people have physical conditions that mean that they're in danger. So I think you have to take in consideration a lot. For me, I've got 4 daughters. If I try and see all of my 4 daughters and 2 of them always have their partners with them, I'm already at 7. One of Kaylin's friends, when she goes back to uni in 2 weeks, has already said, I really want to party, it's my birthday. And Kaylin and a few others, and in fact, the majority of the house has said, no way, we're not doing that. Because what you've also got to start to remember is also the financial punishments now. So, and they are really changing. They're looking at £2,000 and that increasing. They're looking at £100 a person. And, you know, if they really feed this whole culture of grass and telling and splitting and sharing, then a lot of people will do that. It used to have something called Crime Watch and different things, and you used to be able to phone in and get £100 or whatever. If that sort of stuff starts coming, it wouldn't surprise me. And then will people tell? What will they do? But for me, when I read this person's thing as well, what I heard was, in the question was their own anxiety. I heard that this person maybe gets some form of anxiety as well. And Katie just said a student in Nottingham got a 10k fine for a house party. Yeah, if you have a house party big enough that's deemed to be a house party or a rave, it's a £10,000 fine. Now, listen, if you've got that in your bank account, good for you if that's what you want to do. But you know, one of the local shutdowns up north, I don't know if you read this in the news, was down to one person, one human being, not many, one human being who came back, and a lot of people had COVID where they were. And then they decided not to isolate, and they went out to quite a few places, and they caused the whole of the local area's issue. One human being. That's quite frightening. I think that's quite interesting. But is it overkill? If you look at some statistics, your likelihood of dying from it is really small, but then that's also really selfish. But the thing is, when you are a student and you are roughly between the ages of 18 to 24, that's a very selfish, egotistical age. For some of the time, not for all. Let's not just say all teenagers. Let's never say all men or women. It's not all, is it? On average, it's quite a selfish time. They're going out for this fantastic life that they want to do, that they want to have a good time at, that they want to go out and do things. They've already had a year fucked up. If they're a second year, this is their second year. If they're a third year, they've had the second and third year fucked up, but the world's been fucked up. So how much social responsibility do you take as well? For me, I think it has to start with personal boundaries. What are you willing to accept and not? What are you willing to risk and not? Whether you're willing to tell on somebody else, whether you're willing to go to just locally. I was talking to one of my other daughters about this the other day, and it was a school night. She works, she's not at school, but it was a school night, that sort of thing. It was a Wednesday night, and there was a house party going on up the road and it was 2 o'clock in the morning, and she hadn't had any sleep. She knew she had to get up at 7 to start work. She felt really tired, and she just slid into the DMs of the local police and said, look, there's a really big raucous party going on up the road. And she's not somebody who tells ever, but she had gone up and asked as well and said, guys, would you mind turning it down? They're like, oh, fuck off, you can't. Like, they were really rude and aggressive. Then what do you do? And that's the other problem that you've got. Because when you've got a lot of young people and a lot of older people, actually, again, it's not all the time. If you think you're fine and you're against this and you think this is all some conspiracy theory, if you don't know people that have died, if you don't know people that have been really ill, if you don't know people that have been hurt, people will do what they want to do. And if they want a good time, then they'll have that good time.
The difference here, though, is that you're talking about reacting to something that's already happened. In your questioner's point of view, this is preemptive.
The person said already. So like they've said already. Let me bring it up just to make sure. So I'll read it out again because I don't want to get that wrong. But I think it is preemptive as well. So I think you've got a point. I think it's both. Because the person said, they're not even there already yet. So what they said. So let me read it out. So having just moved into university, not even half the people are here yet. Already, my flatmates and other people in my building are having parties and breaking government guidelines. This makes me nervous and uneasy. What would you recommend I do? Does that change what you were going to say, Jerry? Or
I'm talking from the point of view of an adult, and I get what you said about, students. And I never went to university, but my son's there, and I know that a social part of it is a big part of it. But to go in and say, I am unhappy with this situation. Can we discuss it, what you're doing? Can we find somewhere around it? I don't want to go and tell the authorities. I don't want to snitch on you. But on the other hand, I'm really unhappy that this is going on at the current time. When you're not allowed to do this and you're putting everyone else potentially in danger.
Yep, and it's a difficult one, isn't it? Like, because that is a threat in and of itself, whether we like it or not. I don't want to go to, however, and it is because there isn't a middle in this one. There isn't a middle ground where someone can turn and say, well, can I just have a small party then? Because actually what they're saying is no more than 6. And it looks like more lockdown measures are going to be announced on Tuesday from what everyone's saying to avoid a much bigger lockdown again.
And to take Wolfing's point of view, it would be very, very irresponsible, even if universities knew, to move all the party people into the same building.
Yeah, because they'd be massive.
Worse.
Well, yes, stroke no, you contain the problem and you end up with the least impacting solution for the greatest number of people.
But you're still allowing Go on.
But you are no, but you aren't going to be able to stop those people. I mean,
you are though. In halls of residence, it's really clear, and in houses, it is. So if you have a landlord, or if halls of residence have a very clear code of conduct about noise, about parties, about everything else as well, and actually you can really stop people from doing things, saying things, holding parties, doing stuff. But you can if you want to. Whether people do or not is up to them. That I'm a little bit with Jerry on this one. In that if you have a party house and a load of people keep having parties and they end up going to lectures. Like I said, one of the issues up north was when one person refused to quarantine and isolate for 14 days. They caused a whole county's lockdown, one human being. And that's how quickly something spreads. It's that easy if someone touches or does something. It's the same for me around sexual health in kink. It's the same for me around safety in kink. I wrote a bit of it was supposed to be a tongue-in-cheek type thing the other day where I said, oh, my partner's away and he hasn't texted for over 24 hours. These are the things that go through people's minds. I didn't say my minds. I said our minds are funny, aren't they? And I wrote from he's died all the way through to he's completely okay and doesn't give a shit and has had a good time. And there are lots and lots of different things. Oh, that's really sweet, Jerry, saying, hi, Harry, it's really lovely to see you. And it is. And Cuthbert Bear, who is drunk, clearly. All has COVID. Gin on the side. But so, it's that, and I sort of made it up, but somebody wrote on it and said, really? As a question mark, and I know who this person is. And then later I said, yes, really. Because actually a lot of people said, God, this is exactly how my mind works. And it took a more serious tilt than my tongue-in-cheek, I knew he'd forgot his charger, because that's just the sort of person he is. Shit, I'm only turning my phone on once every 24 hours to make sure I can speak to you. I miss you so much type thing was the message I got. What's interesting, though, is that really, because then later on, when that person then puts, yeah, but kink's supposed to be fun. And I said, yes, life is supposed to be fun. Kink's supposed to be fun. And it's supposed to be fun, bearing in mind someone else's sexual health, their physical health, their mental health, or well-being. There has to be a balance. I want to have fun, but I want to have fun with somebody who knows how to use that cane. I want to have fun with somebody who knows how to isolate and wear a mask and put it on properly. And my daughter came in from the train yesterday. The first thing she did was one of my other daughters went to hug her and she went, no, hang on. And she took her clothes off and moved some different stuff out of the way and left it in the porch and washed her hands and sort of cleaned her face a bit. So right now I can hug you. Now, is that because I've got extra cautious children? I don't think so. My eldest daughter's partner had it and he was so bad. He was bedridden for 3.5, 4 weeks. And he's a young, virile giant of a young man. And he's really fit and healthy. All 6'10" of him. He was just on his knees. He lost 2 stone in those 3 weeks. He was really ill. Not enough to go into hospital, but enough that even Darcy said, I don't want it. I really don't want it after seeing that. So I think this is relevant to kink. I think this is relevant to life. I think this is relevant to everything. We have to decide.
I had a couple of close friends round last night for dinner. I went to hug them. They said no, and that's fine. We just have different. That's fine. There's no, oh, you must, or you're wrong, or I'm wrong. Okay, that's fine. No decision. But I think the other thing to think about is, what if it's a wartime position when blackout is happening, and someone says, I don't care about blackout. I'm going to turn my lights on. No matter how many people are going to turn the lights on, you're endangering everybody around. You're breaking the law as it stands.
And I would come down on your side on that one. I'm a little bit more of a good girl. I follow rules as much as I can. Do I break them slightly? Yes. So like with everyone in my house this weekend, actually once we've gone over 6 because my mum came to see my kids and their partners. And it's like, fuck, what do we do? Do we chuck one out? How do we do this? So I have slightly, for sure. Like we do stuff when it suits, don't we?
Chuck one out. It's what basements are for.
You tie one up. Well, we know about you and my daughters. So before anyone says anything, they're all over age. David's met at least one of them. She's come to LAM. I'm not calling him a paedophile or anything else before somebody goes down that sort of route. We just happened to also do a workshop many years together on extreme taboo fantasies, and daughters came into it for different reasons. But so Liz has put as well, if in student accommodation, you can request to move to an alternative. If it's specifically the people you're living with that are going out. And if you're nervous about telling someone, you could just say you want to move rather than what's happening. Alternatively, you can anonymously tell your accommodation leader if you try talking to them and still continue to not respect your boundaries, which is also true. And Jerry's point, why should you have to move? Move out the fuckers that are causing problems if you're already settled in your room and you're happy. Like, which one is right? And this is the problem. And if you want to come down to the legality of it, purely the legality is stop doing it. However, if we all went with legality, most of the kink we do, we wouldn't also be allowed to do. Anything that leaves more than a trifling or transient mark, like I think I've got some, you can see I've got some slight yellow, see my boob there? Not all of it.
Whoa, tits!
Wasn't all of it. There's a slight yellowing there from a bruise. That's illegal. That bruise was over a week ago. That is definitely, I have broken the law. He has broken the law. However, still going to come down to the basic principle on this one, and I'm really sorry because I'm sure a lot of you will disagree, and feel free to say, let's have the debate. It's good to talk. That's just harming me, and that's just him doing it. It's not harming anybody else. If my bruises could leak out and hurt my kids or hurt my family or hurt people that are vulnerable, I would have said absolutely not. And that's the problem with this fucker. That's the difference that I feel, is there is a social and moral responsibility, an ethical responsibility to others, whereas a lot of people aren't feeling that at the moment. I am with Jerry on that one. I am with the whole thing. And for me, Liz, as well, in that scenario is, why should I have to move if I get all settled, I've got my pictures up, I feel really happy, and then I feel at risk? Because the increase is in younger people, for sure. It's going to go up again. You've got this week, and then you've got the next 2 weeks of everyone going back to uni. Of course, uni students are going to want to have a good time. It's the whole point of going to uni alongside an education. It's the 3 years of having a good time, going out, meeting new people, having sex, taking drugs. A lot of people turn around and say, oh yeah, no, students have a lot of psychosis, it's because of the drug taking. Is it? Fuckers like. It's to do with the fact that they've left home for the first time for most of them. It's to do with the fact that they feel insecure and they're worried about life and they're doing things differently.
I'm sorry, students, I understand that that's what student life is partly about, but there's a war on. You can't do it now. It's like, you know, like, we'd love to be doing LAM every month. I'd love to be going to Munches. We'd love to be having fun and enjoying ourselves, but we can't.
But if their argument is they're only in that for 3 years or 2 years or 1 year, and playing devil's advocate, and Munches can go on forever and ever, haven't they got a point? And
they have got a point. I really feel sympathetic to them. I'm sorry that I'm sorry that this is the period that you're at university. It's a shithole. It's really awful. But that's the way it is.
And sadly, for this person asking that question, I kind of do only go, well, and Jim's put a good point in as well. You are only young once. Well, you are youngish for quite a long time. It isn't just a 3-year period. You know, no, I can feel my age. Like, I wouldn't get on my roller skates well, I would. That's not true. I do. But I'm more worried about a broken hip if I fall on my fucking...
Yeah. And again, I'm going to contest that one, Jim. I've managed to be young at least twice. I'm on my second wind at the moment, and I'd highly recommend it to anyone.
But also Jim is right as well, isn't? So this is the point, isn't it? All these things, this isn't about the simpleness of right and wrong. It's about ethics. Mm-hmm. And so, like, many years ago, when I first started doing psychotherapy, ethics were different. So the ethics turned around and said that this is a list of ethics that you must follow. And the list was like 300 long, right? I don't know if even you remember that, Jerry, if you're working in that field, if you had a list of ethics. So if anyone has been in psychology for more than 20 years, there used to be a list of ethics. And you used to have to remember them. Like, you will not do this, you will not do that, you will not do this, you must not do this. Incredible amount of things that you go, fucking hell. I remember looking through some of them thinking, shit, how are you? I mean, they're very common sense, but what if you just break one and you get it slightly wrong because you haven't learned it fully? And when you signed up and you passed your Viva, whatever you want to call it, or you passed exams and you got through, you used to sign saying, I will adhere to the code of ethics from my particular governing body. That doesn't happen anymore. So anyone who's qualified in the last 10 to 15 years, maybe, is that about right? It might be 20, well, around 10, sorry, I can't remember. Because you then have to, now you just say you must follow an ethical code. it is so loose. So you have to develop your own ethics and morals. And for me, my ethic and moral is, how would I make sure that I would answer this question in a coroner's court? That's my ethical and moral dilemma question. So if somebody said to me, why did you do that with this client? Or why did you say that? Or why did you hold that boundary? So you've got to remember, a lot of clients start shouting at me when I hold a fucking boundary. That's the most dangerous time, when I say, no, I won't see you because of that, or this, or that. Or I won't do this session because of this or that, like you're under the influence, or you've got someone with you and that's not appropriate because I know that person. Like, I've had this recently. That's when I get shouted at, when I hold an ethical boundary, interestingly enough, or unless the person's struggling with anger and all sorts of different things, slightly different. And that's the question here for me. So like Liz has just said, it's hard because I'm third year and I only go out for work and food shops. I have family and friends who are at risk, and myself and friends have opted out of going to uni for classes to make sure the person we live with are safe. So therefore, we are technically only going to be getting education half the time in person online. So I understand the frustration, because I keep seeing people going out and not taking safety into account at all. And this is the problem that we have, isn't it? This is where we get some people following some ethics and guidelines and morals, and some people not, because they don't agree with it. However, at the end of the day, actually, it's also law. And people can turn around and say, no, it's not, because you can do this, you can do that. Actually, yes, you can. When my daughter was sexually abused at uni, the police did nothing. The uni chucked them out. The local bars barred them. There were 7 women that had a complaint against him, that where he'd sexually assaulted a group of young women, all related to the uni. You know, sometimes you don't legally get action, but you can get action locally and you can do certain things. And this is the problem, isn't it? As an ethical and moral dilemma, what you have to take into account is the weakest link. And I don't mean weak as in the person who can't stand up. I mean the person that's in danger. I'm sure people want to do a lot of things. I know Zoe, for example, like, was desperate to come to LAM and do all sorts of bits and pieces and join in, and really had to think about how she was going to do that because she's at risk. But you can't take into account all those other people who won't look after you as well. And that's what we're looking for. I was speaking to Darcy earlier, and she was saying the tubes are full. Like, there is no space on the tube anymore. Like, you're not quite in someone's crevice armpit. You're not quite that far in, but you're in enough that the seats are all taken and you've got standing. Whereas it wasn't like that a few months ago. So, and people are pulling masks down under their noses and not wearing them properly, or pulling their mask down and scratching their face and putting it back up again, and all sorts of stuff, because different people will have different beliefs about what they think is right or wrong, that supersedes and overruns any law, any guideline, because they think they're right. And this is one of the problems that we've got from that.
Okay, but what if your questioner went to their housemates and said, okay, I understand you want to have these people, do me a favour, get one of these temperature things, and please don't let anyone in that fails the temperature thing. At least
that could be something, couldn't it? Could we have everyone at whatever? But what we know is we get one of the biggest spreaders of this happened in a choir where people were singing out loud. And if you think of clubs and music, you know, or even a party, we're talking loudly over a conversation quite close to someone, especially if there's music going on. And then if you add in alcohol, there's no such thing as social distancing. There's no such thing as social distancing. And actually, some people don't get a temperature with this motherfucker. Some people do. Some people get a cough. Some people are symptomless. I agree with you. Take every care. Like, you know, LAM, David and I spoke about this when it was all coming up. Like, for me, I got a SATS monitor really at the beginning to take my pulse, because if my temperature wouldn't tell me, my pulse might be able to tell me quicker. So actually, a SATS monitor is a really good thing, because if your SATs are under 92, you're in trouble in some way, shape or form. Like, Opal Fruit is here, like his partner, one of his partners, I know that person, for example, and, you know, she can tell you stories of people coming in to hospital and have their SATs are at fucking 60 and 50, and they think they're fine, but there's an indication of a serious underlying infection, which actually was COVID, and that's happening a lot. So that sort of thing is happening too. So we can take temperatures, we can also do SATs, we can be very careful, we can ask people to be honest. However, That man who started all of that localized lockdown was asked to quarantine, be a good boy, stay at home. You went on holiday, you need to do your 2 weeks penance for that, or whatever we call it. He said, nah, fuck it. But he went out, no temperature, no symptoms, nothing. And he thought, screw you, screw the world. And again, part of the problem that we've got. So I think it's a really awkward one. I think you have to complain. I think you have to try and have a conversation always with a group of people and appeal to the weakest link to say, I'm really worried, I'm in danger. This is about, well, don't go home then if your mum's in danger. You just can't go home. That's unreasonable. You're trying to reason, aren't you, with people as much as you can and still hold a normal-ish life. But actually, if they do start bringing in all these fines for people of even £100 each, and that can go up to 3 something, it's going to be £2,000 now if you it's going to get bigger and bigger. But if you take the example of speeding, doesn't stop people from speeding in a car. Just because you get a big fine. Doesn't stop people from drinking and getting behind a wheel. Doesn't stop people from taking drugs and getting behind a wheel. And it's the same in kink. It doesn't stop people from getting utterly pissed and still playing. And in fact, there are so many retroactive withdrawals of consent after alcohol was involved. And LAM's been involved in a couple of those that are nothing to do with LAM, actually. They're nothing to do with LAM, apart from they were in the same bloody building. But LAM still offers help and says, what can we do? How do we support you? Well, we were all really pissed. Well, who was more pissed than the other? How can you say that that person had more of a right to say yes or no, it didn't, or that person did, if everyone is utterly fucking pissed? And that's part of the problem.
And how many times have we replayed the consent is like a cup of tea video? Because again, you can't drink tea if you're pissed. So we can
make it.
Yeah, we can give you the tools, but it's the individuals who have to make their judgment call how they move forward with it.
Well, it's called freedom of choice, isn't it? And that's the problem that we've got. And so, like Isabel just said, how about making people legally accountable for such behaviour when it's linked to that person? And that's starting to come in. However, we are reacting to a lot of this. And kink itself, so I think kink and COVID are really good co-examples at the moment, because the things around them are really illegal and they're not very good, are they? But in kink, we've got consent and care. Compared to COVID, well, that little fucker's going to get him wherever it can, isn't it? Like, but the way it's seen is they're both bad, dirty for a lot of people, and they're not so good. I just think that it really matters that we take into account other people's situations, rather than that hideousness of, well, fuck you, I want to have a good time. Isn't it like drink driving, crashing, but taking your family of 5? You do get time for that. Yeah, you do. And actually, it's the same. But it's like how much people will do. So I don't have consent to tell this story, but I tell it, and because I didn't see that person. So I had a very young woman come to me many years ago who had been infected with herpes. She was incredibly poorly when she was infected with it, because it's a horrible thing to get. It often gives people symptoms of flu. They're in bed for 3 to 4 days. They feel really, really ill. She was 18 years old, stunning human being, beautiful human being. However, after 3 times of seeing this human being, I refused to see her, and I asked the police to get involved, because what she was actively doing, because she was so angry that she'd been infected, so I use the word infected because it's her word, it's not mine, because she'd been infected, she used that like a real contaminant, she was so angry, she was sleeping with at least 3 to 4 random strangers a week on purpose, with absolutely no form of barrier or anything. Not that that protects you from herpes anyway, because actually it can be around. So if you think about around the genital area, because it doesn't necessarily, it's just not necessarily on a cock or just place. Yeah, there's no protection against it. So like if you, especially if you've got weeping sores, and somebody might not realize, sorry to be so graphic, people, she was actively sleeping with 3 to 4 people every week, men of all ages, and trying to infect them on purpose, because she said, well, if they've got to live with it, why the fuck can't they? So ethically and morally, I couldn't answer that. I had 2 hours worth of conversations with her saying, please, could you see the other side? What? She wasn't interested. If she would have done, I wouldn't have gone to the police, and I'd have worked with her to try and reduce her anger and make her less dangerous to people. And sometimes I've done stuff like that where you do make a different decision. She was not interested, and she was going to go out and affect as many people as she could. But when I phoned the police, they said, well, what do you want us to do about it? I said, I want you to stop her. I want you to go and have a conversation. Do something. She's trying to infect people with a very virulent illness that's not pleasant, that most of us have got anyway in our system. Most people have HS, that they do on some kind of way. A lot of people have got it, whether it's simplex 1 or simplex 2. However, the police said, well, we don't know what you want us to do. I want you to go and fucking speak to her. And it took 3 complaints for someone to go and have a conversation with her. And I checked it with my governing body. I checked it with everyone else as well to make sure I was doing the right thing, my supervisor and everyone else. And ethically and morally, she was infecting other people. Isn't this the same, really? If you don't know whether you've got something or not, I think you have to treat yourself as if you have got it and think about the implication of doing it, giving it to other people of what you're about to do. And yet, all of us will turn around and may say something like that. And yet, I broke the rules this weekend. I had 7 people in my house instead of 6. And that's the other issue. And I'll hold my hands up to that. I will for half an hour, although we were all in the garden out the back because it's been a lovely day and my mum really wanted to see my kids. We were all in the garden outside. It was still more than 6 people. It was 1 more than 6. So I made a conscious decision to pull away. You know, I gave everyone a tea and coffee and then I pulled away so my mum could see them all, and I disappeared into another room and did what I wanted to do somewhere else. So it wasn't really 7. It was 6 people gathering. I just stayed out of the way. I made that choice. But that's what we do as well. That's why I'm very open and honest about these things. As human beings, we morally say one thing. It's like lies. If you ask people if they lie, they say, no, I don't lie to anyone. I'm not a liar. I don't lie. And I think one of the most interesting stats I've ever come across is something about lying. It's 97% of people say they do not lie, nor would they like to be lied to. It would be disgusting if somebody lied to them. And yet, something like 93% of people admitted that they do lie quite a lot. Like, which one is right? Which one is moral? Which one, how do you work with that? What do you do? But this is a greater moral and ethical question for me, same as kink. And for me, the morals and ethics have to come into it. And actually, if you're having loads of parties and you're meeting different people all the time, and you're getting laid by a massive amount of people or not, it isn't about slut shaming, it's about COVID shaming. I've said to my partner while he's away, I don't give a flying fuck who you sleep with. I care if you bring back COVID. How can you promise me that you're safe around that? I don't care who you sleep with. I'm a cut queen. I love it when my partner sleeps with other people. It's one of the things that turns me on. I'm much more hesitant about it now because I'm thinking, oh yeah, but COVID's just such a different kettle of fish. So, and like, if any of you disagree with me, please say, like, or if you've got some really good advice for this person, because the problem is the advice is either fucking shut up, get out, don't do uni, if you want the real extreme, keep yourself really safe, or demand safety, or it's kind of tell on people and whatever. It ends up as 2 extremes, because trying to have a conversation, hope with a group of people in a building is really difficult.
I had a very interesting conversation down the local shop at about 10 to 10 the other night. I've got into the habit of trying not to go out after about 8 o'clock because the COVID quotient seems to be exponentially growing at that particular point of the evening. But I needed something for breakfast, so I nipped out. And I was in the shop. I was the only one wearing a mask. That's fine. They've screened off the counter now, so they feel relatively safe behind the perspex. But someone was quite happy, saw me wearing a Jed mask, the one with the spikes down the front, observed 2 meters, but then decided to step in closer to engage me in conversation about how I was an idiot for wearing one. So after the first sentence had come out, the second one was, yeah, what's with a spike in the middle? And I'm like, self-defense. If anyone steps closer than 1 meters, then if we come to blows, I'm not going to come the worst off. Because it's the others and how they are interacting and not respecting it that is the nightmare. You know? And it's finding that balance. So for me, you know what? I really love walking around late at night. I've always been comfortable doing it, but actually at the moment, yeah, the probability of me meeting interesting people and having conversations at social distance diminishes after about 8 o'clock at night.
So the problem is as well, though, isn't it? We can hold our own ethics, morals and boundaries. We can wear a mask. We can say this is what's acceptable and we can go out. In this situation, it's about a group of people making decisions for you. It's about a group of people taking over and saying our morals, rights, and my right is greater than your right. My right to party is greater than your right to stay alive or stay safe. And actually, that can never be okay for me. So to this person, I would really do something about it. I would try and have a conversation with my flatmates and those people. I would put out some leaflets and bits and pieces. However, I have a sneaking suspicion, by which I mean over 80%, it's not sneaking at all. I have a suspicion, actually, the majority of people you'll meet with will say, no, fuck it, I want this life, this isn't fair and it's not okay, and that you will have to step it up and go further to try and get some backup.
But equally, having taken the sensible steps to attempt to reach compromise rather than just angry dinosauring and escalating immediately, you've shown that you tried to be the reasonable person.
Well, as Kiwiberry just said, and that's a perfect example, I've had people sit next to me on public transport and they get really shitty with me when I ask them to move as we're still supposed to be socially distancing. People do not care. And that's the problem. A proportion of people do not care. And unfortunately, I go to Jerry's more legal aspect here, and him and I agree on a lot of things anyway, don't we? But, you know, and we disagree on some things as well, civilly and with conversation. At the end of the day, I still come down on the legal side of this. However, will you be backed up legally? Not always. Mm-hmm. That's part of the problem. You know, you can say to somebody, please be careful. Look, on London's tube, you can't at the moment. It's all too close and it's all too in. Unless they change the tube service, unless they change the bus services, unless they change the train services. Darcy came down by train. She said it was great. There was no one in her cubicle of 4. People were really respectful. They weren't sitting near to each other. Not cubicle, that makes it sound like your typical like old-fashioned seating. We just got the cubicles. I just mean like that area 4 seating, that so people have a little bit more respect and care for each other.
Yeah, on a London to Brighton train, maybe that's the case, but a rush hour London train,
not going to happen.
Oh, why the fuck should I stand when you've got 3 empty seats next to you?
Yeah. And also the whole point, like Darcy was saying, is, you know, like the tube's full. People are sitting and people are standing, and they're not in the crevices. They're not, you know, they're not up to your armpit or in your boobs or your bottom in your back or whatever it is, because that's what it's like sometimes. It's not quite at that level, but it's getting there. The encouragement has been go back to work. Now Sadiq Khan is already showing rumours of saying, actually, maybe work from home where you can, unless you really can't in the next 2 weeks. It looks like it's going to change. But that's the whole point, isn't it? We were told it was going to change through the winter, but nobody wants to go back to what was. But actually, a lot of people do as well, because people loved lockdown. For some people, it's been delicious. It's been intimacy with family and love and care. And the other extreme to that has been violence and awful for people as well, who just want to get out. And you've got people who've lost jobs and everything else as well. So the problem with all of this is it's all about our personal okayness or well-being or safety when it comes to money, when it comes to work, when it comes to anything else as well. Us as human beings do what we know by experience. And if I've been fine and it doesn't impact me, why would I give a fuck? And that's the problem. That's not me. I'm not saying that, but that's how human beings work. We work on our experience. And then we either fall into categories of people who follow rules, people who don't. And I very much go in that I fall into the category of people who follow rules. Well, clearly I don't, because I just have 7 people under the same roof, albeit 6 in the garden and me inside. And they did come through to get out. They did. That's about it. But did we all wash our hands? My mum wears a mask. She's 83. We don't want her to be in danger, and we get her to wash her hands. We're there with the anti-bac all the time. Do your hands, mum. Do your hands. Like she's very much, oh, leave me alone. I'm 83 years old. I want a DNR. Like, I've had a really good life. And she's fit and capable and active. She's incredible, my mum. Amazing. great genes, can't wait to get into them. Like, she looks incredible, like she's a good human. I'm so lucky to have both of my parents. Most people haven't. They're both very incredible, fit, healthy people. Would COVID kill them? Yeah, potentially. It may or may not. But my mum's already said, you know, I would want a DNR. I want to do not resuscitate. Don't keep me alive in this circumstance. I've had a great time. I don't want to die. Like, and my daughters don't want to die. However, I'd utterly respect her wishes. If a doctor said to me, do we resuscitate? I would say, absolutely not. That's her wish. So, you know, we are more cautious around her and with her. So, like, that's, again, isn't it? That's the problem, isn't it? It becomes a selfish opinion and a selfish way of doing things. I would, however, respect her wishes. But I also get you're only young once, as Jim said. You know, it's a selfish age to be. And I also understand the selfishness. I had a fucking great time at uni. I loved those 3 years. And then I loved the next 3 years that I did. And I loved the next and the next, because I've done a lot of education. It's always brought me something amazing. Love it. It's not based around going out anymore, though, but it is for some people some of the time. And if you are off your face on drugs or alcohol, you will not look after yourself or anyone else, because you cannot. From a transactional analysis perspective, there's something called the PAC model, parent, adult, child. And what happens is these are our thoughts, behaviors, and feelings that are impacted by experience or different things. So the P at the top, so these circles should all sit perfectly on top of each other. That's a great human being. Find me one of those, right? So, but they're not. So the parent side can be nurturing or controlling, and both of those can be positive and negative. So the controlling parent can be sit down, eat your greens, don't run out in front of a car. That could be fairly good stuff. But the controlling could also be you can't go out, you can't do this, and it can be very negative as well. Put your bib on. I'm fucking 22 years old. Fuck off. I'm not going to put my bib on. And the nurturing side can seem really lovely. Oh, please eat this, please take care, do this, let me teach you to do that. But it can also be suffocating. Quick, jump into bed with me, you're frightened of thunder. Am I? Shit, I didn't realise. Maybe I am. So it can be suffocating as well, really suffocating for children. And then you've got the child at the bottom, which is our own personal reaction to things. It's not what we see others do, and it's not the influence from others, which is in the parent and the child. It's more our experience of those things. And you have the free child, which is where you go skipping off with the fairies, which we should all do sometimes. But too free is a bad thing. Never free, a bad thing. Then you've got the rebellious child. We need some rebellion. I remember being in a place in France where if you drove through that little bit there, which said no entry, you got to the bottom of the road to get onto the motorway. Otherwise, it's a 3-mile drive around the other way. Of course, I fucking went down the short one that said no entry. Wasn't interested. We find our own rules that we want to break. However, if you walk into a bank with a sawn-off shotgun, you've probably gone too far with your rule breaking. Or like if you hurt someone else. And then you've got the adapted child, and that adapted child makes adaptations for other people in its life. And that's mainly what you're dealing with in therapy, an adapted child. And then in the middle, you've got the adult, and that's not grown up. That's our capacity to experience things, see where they go and take them on. But racism is for example, just as one example, is a contaminated adult by both sides. So mummy and daddy saw some Jewish people. I'm going to take Jewish because I'm Jewish and I can't be accused of racism or anything else as well. So
I'm gonna get some tape over my mouth at this stage so I can't be accused of anything.
So like the adult part of us, the present part of us, mummy says, look at them in their fucking weird coats and big fur hats. Honestly, they're so tight with money, those bunch of yids or whatever. So she uses all those phrases that I've heard growing up all of my life. Fucking whatever, all those stereotypes. Child says, oh, they must be bad because mummy is right. That's the case. But it's not enough to be contaminated just from one. You have to be contaminated from experience as well. So actually, all it takes is mummy to say something under her breath, fucking yike, like whatever she says, you'd quite like, you know, a nice, derisory, fantastic name. That person then gets angry. The child experiences that that's a bad person. Therefore, the adult is contaminated on both sides. And of course, racism can all be changed in people. We can decontaminate. Just leads to a shit ton of confusion for the child, actually, in all of us. But that's the point of therapy. Therapy is to decontaminate and then to deconfuse. That's what we do. That's not a good way of thinking. That's what you were taught. Let's take that out. You don't need to do that. Let's make the bubbles go against each other. now that really confuses our own experience of shit, is my whole life a lie? I've adapted for that. What do I do now? So the second part of therapy, so it's not just enough to change, it's you have to then deconfuse. That's what transactional analysis says. And that happens to a lot of us. And in this sort of state, I've got a right. Why should I? I don't have to do that. I'm not like that. Actually, we need to teach you that there is a social responsibility. But if you have that contamination from both sides as an adult, that won't change in someone just with a conversation. Because the person, it needs a good set of conversations to make the person realize social and moral responsibility. And that sort of stuff takes a long time. And in London, there's a feel, isn't there? I remember taking Erin back when lockdown first finished, because Erin and Kayla, my two youngest, moved back here, one from uni, one from about to go and do her masters. And like taking Erin back was really interesting. I wore a mask, went into the shop. Like the amount of people who were leaning over you like this, guys, it was like, gosh, that's quite a lot. Whereas where I come from, locally around here, people are, oh no, you go first. Oh, excuse me, I'm so sorry. And there are the odd person that breaks that rule, especially around the pubs and bits and pieces, but there's a different feel. London has its own form of social interaction that is very different. It's busy, it's frenetic, and it has miniature villages and points in it where maybe you don't get that. But I found it quite interesting, the difference in just in that mini culture and societies to where people are, which I'm sure everyone's found. But the problem is people won't change their mind. And actually, you know, we need the adult inside us to make that decision, that presence of, let me think about all of these things here, things I've been taught, things I've experienced, and I care for other humans. Whereas if they're contaminated, both of those, well, why should I give a fuck? I don't have to. And it's way bigger than just an opinion. It is a set of values where people believe it's their ethics and their boundaries, but they're not good ethics and boundaries. It's a weird one, but it's a great way to see people. And people communicate differently, like parent to parent, this is what they should be doing. Yeah, I know they should be doing that. That works brilliantly and keep that one going forever. Parent to child, you should be doing that, which is kind of what we're saying now. You should be doing that. That's the way it should be. And that can keep going forever until someone crosses it and says, no, hang on, what about this? And we go, oh, that's just jolted me out of my experience. I need to change that. So that, like, the parent adult child is a fantastic model to look at and to learn from, because you're like, gosh, I'm in child mode here. I can feel it, the way I'm competing and saying, gosh, I'm in parental mode. Where's my adult? How can I just be present and not be contaminated by a lot of these things? But that takes a fucking shit ton of work. It's really hard. And a student, in that moment, for some who've had more adult and parental interactions that are positives, will say, well, that's not the right ethical and moral thing to do. But some students who are much more in the childlike experience capacity, who maybe haven't had the examples of you're, you know, gosh, you're one of the top leaders in the country, you can do whatever you fucking want, down to you don't have a lot, take what you want. It depends where we are. Of course they'll go out and do what they want to do, because that's what they've been taught to do all of their lives. It depends how you've been brought up. And that's the other problem. So you can go in thinking you have a moral, ethical, good judgment saying, please don't do that because it's not very nice. Depending on the other person's experience, won't necessarily do it. It's an interesting model.
Go
on.
I was just thinking slightly randomly there. We haven't had time to develop an adult attitude to this.
I agree.
It's all parent and child. There hasn't been enough to develop.
Absolutely.
The police, the law, the government, that's all parenting.
Yeah, and some of us who aren't that as well, yes.
But I think in the absence of an adult, isn't all parent better than all child?
Depends on the parent.
My parallel thought to that was, I've been thinking for quite a long time that we culturally in Britain, in the world, need a new youth movement. We need, you know, I'm 65, so I remember the 60s. We need the hippies, we need the punks, we need someone saying this isn't good enough. The youth today is too complacent. So in some ways, if the police and the government come in and say, you must do this, you must do this, maybe there'll be some rebellion and some youth thinking, actually, no, we're going to protest against that and meet somewhere in the middle.
Maybe, but parent isn't always better and child isn't always better. Adult is definitely the best. And you can be an adult when you're 12 years old. I don't mean an adult. I mean really good present thinking. It's like different. If the government is the parent and they've not been clear about the boundaries, see, again, that's the problem, isn't it? The messages aren't clear, they're contradictory. Like in kink as well, if you think about it, if you use it as a parallel, it's the same, isn't it? The childlike part of us really wants the experience, wants to have fun. The parental part says, oh, be careful about this. Yes, it is fun. And please make sure you're safe because of X, Y, Z, and learn. So that your adult can take all of those things in without feeling contaminated about it and go, okay, I'm making some really good decisions about my safety, my security, my awareness, and having a shit ton of fun at the same time. When someone gets pissed, what happens is the first thing that disappears is the adult. That's the first thing that's gone. Then they've got this psyche that says, right, I must do this and I must do that, which is parental. And actually what you're left with when someone is really pissed is their childlike qualities. That's what you're left with. Of course I can fly. Or whatever it is, you know, it's that childlike freedom of, I don't care about any of that. I'm just going to do this. Oh my God, I love everybody. And I'm crying. I hate the world. No, I do. I really love everyone.
It's also an unusual subject because everyone has heard of a virus. So there is a superficial level of knowledge of the subject.
Oh, don't get me started. That whole Facebook expert who was selling soap last week and is now some kind of virologist expert, knows everything on the planet and is a scientist. And it's like, I'm sure you were selling soap last week, Karen.
But it's that dangerous combination where everyone over the age of 12 has heard the word virus in some way, shape or form, and there is a knowledge of it. But because this is unique and novel, we don't know enough as to, is it more analogous to an HIV? Is it more analogous to an influenza? And how it fits into it. So you end up with that unfortunate knowledge vacuum that leaves the space open for imaginations to run where fact would normally be present. And thankfully it is the 1 in 100 year event where something arrives so spectacularly, has such a massive impact that like all cataclysmic events, the knowledge that is being learnt at this particular time means that from a scientific perspective this is not going to be the same clusterfuck again in the future, because they will have picked up and learnt new skills and new understandings from this issue, so that next time round it'll be a case of, yeah, no, let's not mess around, let's just lock that down.
It's also the same in kink, isn't it? You learn by your mistakes. Unfortunately, in this one, it costs lives. Yep. What we try and do in kink is say, don't let it cost your life. Please don't be pissed and play with asphyxiation. Please don't do choking or breath play when you're off your face, which is the most common cause of death in a kink scenario.
Thankfully, you know, I believe at the moment the vast majority of fatalities have been sock puppets.
You know, that is sort of like when you look over the years, if you look at what's killed people in kink, it's really impact play. It's not a lot of these things. It's actually people getting pissed, meeting someone new. Like, look, we had a girl locally meet a mass murderer and they related through kink. I think they met on Whipler or somewhere like that. She's only up the road and my kids knew her. She was definitely into kink and unfortunately she ended up being murdered and it was absolutely horrendous. That's a very different crime to an accidental death of what you had in Scotland the year before, which we still hear about once a year in a variety of places, is they played with breath play and they all went too far. He went for a walk for an hour, he didn't know what to do, and he'd already throttled her and she was dead. But if he'd have phoned the police or the ambulance at the time, maybe someone could have done something. And this is the problem, isn't it? We know what to do in those circumstances. In this one, although we have an idea, we've also got too much fake news and too much falseness coming into all of our reading and all of our situations where we all think we're a fucking expert and we're not. I have this argument about kink all the time. I've been in kink for 38 years. I'm a qualified therapist with 50,000 plus hours and a shit ton of therapy and whatever. And I've been offered fucking PhDs in it. And I teach other people. It does not make me an expert. It makes me someone who's experienced something and happens to have done this as well. You're an expert in you. Like, it's like to the person that asks, you also know what you can manage. You know whether you can take the risk of speaking to people. If you're too anxious and you can't, don't do it. go to an authority figure. But then again, if you're anxious around authority figures, that's also really complex. But you'll know your answer. You'll know, because you've got to do what you're comfortable with. My fear is, if you've got someone with anxiety who is really scared in this situation, is their anxiety shuts them down and puts them in such a place that they then end up doing nothing, and then feeling and working with that ethical and moral dilemma, which makes their anxiety worse and makes them feel worse as well. Yeah, exactly, Jim. Facebook assures me it's only a flu. And do you know what it is? It is a version of, it is a strain of. I mean, so was the Spanish flu, and so were many other things before it. And that's the problem. And it seems every, every century or so, every 100 years, we seem to hit something like this, because new viruses will always try and create themselves, because everything wants to live as a being. Everything wants to live. It's funny that. Second opinion to Dr. Google. Lol, cosmic. Yeah, so we've just got to be careful, haven't we? To this person, just to finish off, you probably know what you want to do, what you can live with, and it's about the consequences. So back to a favorite, sorry, for me, it's about pre-morteming. It's about saying, okay, if I do this, or if I don't do this, and if I do this and I don't do this, and I look at all of these things that I want to do, what can I live with? What can I live with other people doing? What can I live with as an impact? And if you can look at that and say, right, these are all the potentials, with all the bubbles coming off them, pre-morteming is such an important thing to me. You then work out what you can live with, and that's what you've got to figure out. What can you live with? That's why my ethical question as a therapist is, how would I answer this in a coroner's court? And if I can't give a decent answer, I need to not do that action. Similar. We're at the end, aren't we?
We've come to the end, unfortunately, Debs. It's been an absolute pleasure. I hope we've got you again next Sunday. And Thursday night as well is your other regular slot.
Yeah.
Thank you for all of the time you give. I know it's been a complex set of challenges over 2020, but I think that's really what keeps us together. And can I get away from Cuthbert, please?
Oh, it's so lovely to see you, Harry. Like, I love seeing everyone. I don't mean that it's not. See, this is the thing, isn't it? We always have to think about the implication of what we say. Just because I say, hello, Harry, it's so lovely to see you, doesn't mean I don't love every single person in the same way or know them. It's all to do with our personal internal things, isn't it? It's our internal system that says, oh my God, like shit, that person means that by saying that. It's our interpretation. And that is the child in us that's contaminated as well. Oh, they mean that then, don't they, if they don't mean me? And that's the problem with all of this.
Yeah, but it's the nice memories that we like, that a smile from someone can remind you of all of the awesome things, and it distracts you from, the rest of the cock-wombling that goes on in the world.
Yeah. Look, I feel really privileged to talk to people here. Like, I appreciate the fact that, whether it's CPD for someone, whether it's a question, whether it's just a familiar face, whether it's a connection to kink, whether it's just a hello, it doesn't matter. I just appreciate you all, and I'm so grateful to have the opportunity to do these things. It's special. And I made a comment on a post earlier that was talking about the state of London and the scene and what's happening at the moment. And I've said, if somebody wants to start a charity, I'll offer it for free. I'll do a workshop for everybody on how to listen around trauma and what to do. But, everyone has to realize when I look at how much I spend on kink by doing stuff for free, and by spending, I could use that hour to work, cost me 300 quid a week. And people can't do that. That's an awful lot of money. That's what some people fucking...
I'm reminded of something that someone told me many, many, many years ago. If you want to make a small fortune out of kink, start off with a big fortune. Because it's one of those. It's just how it works. Anyway, I need to let you get going. Everyone else can come and join us in the Zoom chat with Jerry for the rest of the day, and also the live stream will be running. The next thing we're going to have is a book reading from Zach, and because we're coming back into lockdown, I thought we'd redo the reading from the bunker. Okay.
Just posted the link to the chat.
Oh, lovely. Jerry's a lovely guy to talk to. Like, if you want some connection to kink, go and have a chat. Great human. As everyone is. Like, I really appreciate it all. Thank you. And I will see you all later.
Bye all.
Leaving like a wanker again. That's always...
And there we go, as we come out of healthy mental practices for the week and get back on with the schedule. Please, if you have been enjoying the content, don't forget to subscribe, like it, share it. Rest of the details again up on the screen here if you need to note them down for next week. And that brings us round to 3 o'clock, where we'll be shortly doing a reading from the bunker with Zach from Dirty Sexy Words, but a few more messages from our stallholders first.
Hi everybody, Zach here from Dirty Sexy Words, and if you notice something different, it's that I've got my reading glasses on. You might notice my lovely necklace, which is from Scarlet in Chains, fellow traders, but reading glasses, because I'm going to read you a story. So I hope you're all sitting comfortably, as they used to say. Everybody been for a wee, washed your hands, got a nice drink within reach, and so on, because I'm going to read you a story from my collection called Eroticise This, which is stories kind of inspired by Brexit and the dangers that appeared to be kind of imminent at the end of last year. No, I didn't know what was going to happen this year. I don't think anybody really did. But this particular story is called The Kink Bunker, and it started when I began wondering about what it would be like to be stuck come the apocalypse in a fetish dungeon, only with somebody that you didn't like very much, a rival for the person you did like. So this is the kink bunker. Meredith carefully measured the coffee into the paper cone and switched the kettle on, having equally carefully measured the amount of water in it. 3 small cups, half a spoonful of sugar in her own, a little milk for the Duchess, milk and sugar for Pixie. That little flicker of resentment came and went once again. Both sugar and milk for Pixie, when Pixie was only there by accident, on sufferance. She let it go. Mean, stupid thought. Ridiculous thought. They surely wouldn't be there long enough to worry about such things. There was plenty of milk, even if it was only powdered, and plenty of sugar as well. As to what else might be in the cupboards, perhaps she could have a look in a little while. She risked a discreet sniff of her own armpit while she was waiting for the water to boil. It wasn't all that bad. No need for shower privileges just yet. Are those coffees ready yet, little merry miss? I can carry them through if they are. Pixie, of course. Had the little brat really lost the concept of time? Or was this another dig? The kettle clicked off at just that moment, and Meredith picked it up, thinking that speech was clearly unnecessary. How about a biscuit or two? Left-hand cupboard. Speech was going to be inescapable, of course. Let it go. If she didn't let it go, things were going to get a lot worse, a lot faster. It had been less than 8 hours, after all. There was no signal down in the Duchess's bunker, no Wi-Fi. They'd only known because the alarm had sounded. Meredith hadn't even known there was an alarm fitted in here. Presumably the Duchess had got one of her more techno-literate, news-focused friends to fit one. And because the Duchess had stopped the scene and switched on the little television in the social zone. After 5 minutes, it had been switched off again, because the Duchess didn't want to see any more. Enough information had been gathered. It had been quite late at night, so after a short spell of uneasy, circular, half-hearted conversation, it had been decided that they should all try to get some sleep. There was at least enough space for them to do so in relative, separate privacy. According to the clock in the kitchenette, it was mid-morning. It was time for coffee. Meredith would focus on coffee for the moment. And she would be careful, without saying anything, and that would be good behaviour. Everyone had been supposed to plan and practice, but probably most people hadn't. There would be so many of them stuck in places they wouldn't have wanted to be, with people they wouldn't have chosen to be with. It wouldn't be for long, surely. She poured the coffee, put the cups on the tray. Pixie had arranged the biscuits on a plate and walked ahead of her, bearing what was, presumably in Pixie's mind, an offering. The Duchess hadn't moved. Meredith thought that she didn't look all that well, and then tried to forget the thought. "Thank you, darlings," the Duchess said, as the coffee and biscuits were placed, almost ceremonially, on the table. "You can sit on the chairs." Back to full protocol, then. Meredith bowed her head, acknowledging the rules, picked up her own cup and sat on the nearest chair. Meredith had been seeing the Duchess for over a year. What had started at a play party, with a delicious caning, had grown into something more profound fairly quickly. The Duchess liked her playthings to be obedient and, in scene space, moderately formal, though she could also be a charming friend and mentor. Meredith treasured equally the memories of walking on a leash, 3 steps behind the Duchess, her hands behind her back, aware that any misbehaviour would incur punishment, and the quiet little dinners in various obscure restaurants where the Duchess was known to the staff, and where they talked for hours over their food, almost as equals, but not quite. The Duchess was considerably older than Meredith, though she never discussed her age in any detail. She would sometimes gently hint that Meredith should perhaps seek other partners, or even an owner from her own generation, but it fell a long way short of being a command. The Duchess had other friends, other partners, which Meredith tried not to think about. It wasn't her place to ask for more than she was being offered, no matter how much she wanted to. If she obeyed, if she was charming, if she didn't complain, perhaps her time would come. The Duchess had asked Meredith to come and participate in a session with Pixie once before, and Meredith hadn't liked it all that much. She had even thought of talking to the Duchess about it the next time they met as friends, rather than mistress and slave, but hadn't been able to decide whether that would be a good or a bad idea. Pixie had a way of absorbing all the air in the room, or so it seemed to Meredith. She hadn't wanted to complain. She had played her part as much as she could. Praise from the Duchess was almost reward enough. The dynamic they played out between the three of them, both the previous time and when they had come down to the Duchess's dungeon yesterday evening, cast Meredith in the role of good sub, devoted and obedient, while Pixie was the brat to be tamed. Meredith didn't have a brat side, but she spent plenty of time being disciplined, corrected, flogged, spanked and caned when she and the Duchess were alone together, and the Pixie-focused scenes had left her feeling almost overlooked. She suspected the Duchess had taken notice of this at the beginning of this second and possibly final session, as play had seemed likely to be terminated shortly before the outside world rushed in on them, or didn't, because this underground play space was, in fact, secure and safe as any billionaire's bolt hole. Perhaps less well supplied, though. Meredith was active in the kink community, though mostly online. She liked to have some idea of what was going on, particularly where the Duchess was concerned. There had certainly been discussions in kinky online spaces as well as vanilla ones. People had posted about where they might go when the time came, and what they might need. Some had mentioned shopping centres or the large supermarkets, though others had pointed out that overcrowding was likely to be a problem. Holing up in the pub or in your favourite fetish venue had been mentioned more than once, with predictable digressions as to whether or not you would want to be rescued and what you might get up to in order to while away the time. A long thread in one of the forums listing what to put in your grab bag had started out semi-seriously, but had derailed into listing the versatility of everyone's favourite kink toys. Yes, there were things you could defend yourself with, and things you could probably start a fire with if you didn't have an actual lighter. And some had gone into mildly worrying detail about how you could adapt your rope and a couple of D-rings into a device for snaring rats to eat when things got really bad. "Your Grace," Pixie said, may we switch the television on again?" "If you wish." It occurred to Meredith that neither Brat nor Domina sounded much like their scene selves, despite the language used in that brief exchange. Pixie's voice was softer and more conciliatory, and the Duchess spoke with a weariness Meredith had never previously heard. Even the sub's movements when Pixie got up to seek the remote and awaken the little screen was subdued and more economical. She didn't want to see what the television might be showing. While she didn't know, she could hope that rescue of some sort was on the way, or at least an opportunity to leave the bunker, or for one of them to leave. She couldn't say that, though, so she asked, in as quiet and cautious a fashion as she could manage, whether she might have a look at what was in the cupboards by way of supplies. The Duchess waved a languid hand in assent, and Meredith went back to the little kitchenette, feeling dismissed and relieved at the same time. Prepare for the worst, hope for the best. She would try to be useful, no matter what. Temporary pause. Wash your hands, grab another drink. Back in a sec. back again to continue with our little story, and this is part 2 of The Kink Bunker. Perhaps the Duchess had been more aware and more prepared than Meredith herself, after all. She had always had an assortment of tempting nibbles on hand for those long, intensive sessions that were likely to require a refreshment break. As the kitchenette contained neither cooker or microwave, though, there was never going to be anything requiring much time or effort for preparation. While there were several packets of biscuits in the usual cupboard, along with dried fruit and a selection of energy bars, Meredith also discovered a small stockpile of tinned fish and tin mixed beans, packets of instant noodles and powdered soups, and 3 bottles of multivitamins. The fridge, as always, held bottles of fruit juice as well as wine, but the mini-freezer contained only 1 ice cube, with the rest of the space being filled with a mixture of smoked salmon, a couple of meal loaves, and own-brand steak and chicken pies. She wondered, irrelevantly, what had become of the ceramic and glass sex toys the Duchess liked to keep in there. The last time she had been down here with the Duchess, the big violet glass dildo had featured in the final act of their game together. The theme of the session had been self-control, with Meredith being instructed to stay silent under a variety of inventive torments. As she remembered, clover clamps on her nipples while she was cuffed, hand and foot, to the padded bench in the middle of the dungeon, and the Duchess used a long feather to tickle the soles of her feet. She was flogged with an implement made of horsehair, which stung and burned alarmingly. At the end, the Duchess had edged her, time and time again, with gloved fingers and a bullet vibe, threatening terrible punishments should she lose control. She had begun to feel the cocktail of pleasure and pain would drive her entirely out of her mind. And then had come the shock of the ice-cold glass inside her, and the vibe on her clit at maximum intensity, and, finally, permission to scream. As the thought crossed her mind, she heard something that sounded like a scream, and jumped up from her crouch in front of the freezer. In the social area, the Duchess had slipped sideways in her chair, one hand pressed to her chest, gasping for breath. The television was on, yammering, playing music, but Meredith ignored it and ran to the side of the woman she adored. He was turning on the spot, seemingly looking round and round the room. "You useless waste of space," Meredith thought, starting to cry. But then Pixie was crouching beside the Duchess, lifting her up, holding one of her hands and saying in a calm, authoritative voice, "Your pills, Janet. Where are your pills? You must have a pack down here." "Handbag," the Duchess croaked. "Hook by the door." "Go and get it," Pixie told Meredith, and she found herself obeying straight away. The Duchess always brought her handbag with her whenever she and her slaves crossed the patch of garden from the back of the house to the bunker's entrance, slaves wearing the dressing gowns the Duchess provided over whatever attire she had ordered them into, and the Duchess herself fully dressed. Meredith had never thought about it very much. Her role was to obey. She found the handbag, ran back down the stairs with it, and thrust it towards Pixie, who had now got the Duchess sitting upright again and given her some water. The television had been switched off again, which was a relief. The old dominor's face was pale and sweaty, but she smiled her wicked smile at Meredith and said, "Thank you, Nick." Whatever the medication was, it seemed to take effect quickly. Pixie and Meredith helped the Duchess to lie down on the sofa and covered her with one of the weighted blankets that were usually brought out for those subtypes who wanted the more advanced type of aftercare. The Duchess didn't object, saying only that she was tired and that they were not to worry. "We can't call for help yet," Pixie said, once the Duchess had fallen asleep and the 2 submissives had moved back into the play space to give her peace and privacy. "She'll be all right, just resting for a few hours, though she'll have to go to hospital at some point." "Hospital? Fuck's sake, do you think there are any hospitals? It's happened, remember? We're stuck here." Meredith only just managed to keep her voice lower than a shout, and when Pixie appeared to be on the verge of laughing, It was an even more demanding struggle not to hit the other sub. Oh, Meredith, I'm sorry. I forgot you were in the other room. It was a false alarm. That's probably what brought on the heart attack in the first place. Meredith tried to speak and couldn't, and cried instead. Pixie helped her sit on the whipping bench, held her hand, but didn't try to hug her. Instead, Pixie talked, kindly and calmly. Pixie was a paramedic. Pixie had known the Duchess for quite a long time, and knew about her heart condition, which was generally under control. Whatever kind of clusterfuck had led to the alarms sounding was now resolved, but obviously there would have been a certain amount of chaos in the streets. It might take a while to sort out, but they were, all three, safe enough where they were for the moment. After a while, Meredith felt better. She suggested putting together some sort of a meal from the food stores. Perhaps she'd make something for the Duchess as well, but perhaps they shouldn't disturb her till she woke up. Pixie agreed to this, and it was only when Meredith got up to head to the kitchen that Pixie stood as well. At that point, Pixie offered her a hug, and at that point, Meredith accepted. It was the next day when Meredith ventured upstairs, out of the bunker, and back to the house. Pixie was the most appropriate person to stay with the Duchess. Daylight. Normality. No signs of anything unusual having happened at all. She used the Duchess's key to unlock the house door, and found her phone still had some charge. 50 texts and 20 missed calls as well, but she ignored them until she had phoned, on Pixie's recommendation, the relevant department at the local hospital. Pixie would drive the Duchess there, and the medical staff would deal with her. Meredith could go home now. In the days and weeks between the false alarm and the sounding of the genuine alarm, Meredith thought often of those hours in the bunker. She thought about how people misjudge one another, and hoped she could learn to be a better person in future. She also hoped that when it happened for real, she might be with the Duchess and with Pixie. Hope that's not going to be nightmares. If you're stuck in a dungeon with somebody at the end of the world, be nice. Anyway, thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed that. Be good till the next time. Wash your hands, stay safe, stay cool, stay kinky. Bye-bye.
And thank you there, Zach. It's been awesome to have you interact with the stream so much during lockdown, and greatly appreciated. I know lots of people have kind of felt a little bit nostalgic having that whole book reading experience. It's something that the audio books market seems to have sucked up the general interest, but it's nice to have it done at a kink capacity. Anyway, so a little bit further, a bit of background from Spank.
Hi, Debbie Spank here. I've been asked to do a podcast on a little bit of history of Spank. Before I start, I'd like to say that I'm really missing everybody and missing Lam, and I hope you're all keeping safe and well. Firstly, the name Spank. I think I'll leave that to your imagination of why I would have called it that. I started the business in 1986. I was working as a manageress in Oxford Street, Jean Genie, and I was really had a passion for fashion, and I just started making little things like earrings for curtain rings, and I used to customize things from I picked up from Oxfam, and people really liked my creations. So I decided to get a little market stall in Camden, and it was difficult, because I was working full time in Oxford Street and also trying to make stuff and working weekends and evenings, and eventually I decided to take a chance and give up my full-time job, which was a big shock to the system, because I was sitting in a bed sit in Brixton trying to make clothes, which wasn't an easy task, I must say. Yeah, I think I really decided that my best part of my business was me designing and selling. So I decided to try and get outwork as machinists to help with the actual making. I remember the first day in Camden I did it. It was like snowing, and I took £5. But yeah, I persisted and things did get better. So I took on another stall in Camden Market up in the stables. So I had two stalls. I had someone working for me. And at the time I was, it was more tie-dyes, my earlier designs. And I used to make flared sleeve tops, and I used to sew motifs on the front, and then I used to tie-dye them. I started, yeah, they sold really well. And I started doing the Festy circuit, Glastonbury, Reading, all of those festivals. And things were going really well. I thought as I'm talking, I'd put up a few of my old creations through the years, Spank designs. As you can see, it's going to change quite a lot up into where we are today. This is my shop in Camden. Yeah, as you can see, it's kind of like it's going a bit cyber club wear, and still got my tie-dyes there. I also took on two stalls in Kensington Market. One was up on the first floor next to Red Bulls on Fire, an excellent glam rock designer from Los Angeles. Yeah, we used to get a lot of people coming in. Alice Cooper used to hang out, and Robert Smith from The Cure. And yeah, I'm going to do a bit of name dropping now. I had Debbie Harry came to my shop, and Kylie Minogue came to my shop. I must say, when I was in Camden Market, it was about 87, I think. Madonna's agent came in and brought a pair of orange hot pants, crushed velvet. I'll never forget it, because Hanky Spanky came out about the same time as I called my business Spank, which was really convenient. Anyway, I'm just going off the subjects. Yeah, so where was I? Actually, while I'm on that subject, when I was in the shop in Camden Market, it was in the Stables Market. It had 2 floors. It was quite a big shop. This guy came in at the end of the day, and he said he was going on tour with The Cure. His name was Paul. He was the bass player, and he ended up buying a lot of outfits. Here are some of the pictures of my shop and some of the outfits I was doing then. And he spent £800, which was great. But I should have took some pictures, but hey, I never even asked for his autograph. Silly woman. But yeah, that's my claim to fame. Anyway, I'm still actually making a few things for friends in bands. Here's a picture of Raymond from Pig, and he's a couple of outfits I made for him for his tour in America and Japan. I will say, I was one point in my life that I thought I should franchise the business because I thought it would make it easier. But so many of my customers said, oh no, please, you'll just sell out. Your stuff is so individual, and that's great. So don't mass market it. But it would have been easier for me, and it would have made more money. But I don't think it's all about money anyway. I think in this business, or any business, you've either got to be very big or small. I don't think there's anything in the middle because of the VAT and all that, which I've struggled with when I did once go there. But I think it's better to keep small now. Anyway, back to my story. When eventually Kensington Market sadly closed down, and Camden Market became very mainstream, I decided to pull out. So that was when I was thinking, where am I going to go now? So I came across London Alternative Market, which was perfect for where I was going with my designing. Yeah, what do I enjoy about my job most? That's another question. I think probably the happiness that I can see in people's faces when a customer comes in, and there may be big ladies, small ladies, or have issues with their bodies, like I'm sure we all do. And they walk out and they're really feeling sexy in the clothes, and men as well. I do a lot of men's clothes, really into men's clothes at the moment, getting new designs all the time. But yeah, the selling, I don't push, but I love to see people happy with the purchase, and the designing. I love the designing. Just that sometimes you get so many in your head and it's too much. You just can't get it all out there. What's the best feedback I've received? I would say probably the hugs I've had from ladies and men that have come into my stall and been so happy, and said that you've made my day because I went out and I felt really happy and felt really confident. I would say that's, I've even had tears from customers sometimes, which is beautiful, I think. Anyway, I think I've answered all the questions and I'm showing you lots of pictures of all the clothes through the years of Spank. I will just say one thing, that when I eventually did give up my job, which was 1986, my mother said, no, don't give it up. But, you know, in retrospect, I'm very pleased I did. I know I was a bit of a high flyer with managing and going around the country and troubleshooting. But, you know, I would encourage anybody to take a chance. It's hard work. It's really hard work. Maybe that's why I never got married or had kids, because it's been my baby, but it's been worth it. Anyway, guys, I think I better close there. I'm really looking forward to seeing you all again, and I hope you're all keeping really well and safe. It's not an easy time, I must admit, but things can only get better, eh? Much love to all. Bye. Oh, and I've forgotten the most important thing. Where you can find me and buy my lovely wares. www.spankonline.co.uk. Yeah, please check out my website, and yeah, any queries, any questions, don't hesitate to get hold of me. Okay, guys, see you soon. Bye.
And please don't forget, if you're enjoying the content, if you're not already a subscriber, hit the button. You know, it's how you'll get to hear all the latest information and what's going on. If you're enjoying it today, please hit the like, show some appreciation, and if you're enjoying it, share some of the content and spread the good word and pass the messages on. Speaking of good words and good fun stuff, a very innovative company here. And here we are coming round to the 3:30, running a little bit late, part of what's going on. So, a couple of updates from us. What's going on with LAM? Well, we're still working on our next date for an event. We're aiming for something in October, but equally October does look like it might be a challenging month. So we're going to have to see what we can do, what the regulations allow, and work around it from there. At the end of the day, because we're classified as a retail business, as long as we can find suitable premises and put all the appropriate controls in place, we're not subject to putting on an event. Obviously our guests can only come in maximums of 6, but obviously we appreciate that within that we can create space where people can remain in their groups and yet be close enough to communicate with others, and equally one of the reasons why we've been investing in so much mobile internet capability is that we're starting to see that creating hybrid events is part of the way forward. So you don't necessarily have to get that up close and catch up with people if you can interface and use mobile technology as well. So that's very much where we're going from. Unfortunately, because of the complexities of putting events on at the moment and the legal requirements, we literally can't give any kind of confirmed information until we have dry ink on contracts and have briefed absolutely everyone in the process, because there was a little bit of disruption last time, but there we go. Oops, sorry, missed that one because the mic was off. Just to let you know, if anyone has any suggestions on venues, please get in touch and let us know. And in the meantime, we're going to carry on with our schedule. On replacement Sundays for LAM, there will be a longer stream starting at about 12:30, running through till 6-7 o'clock, depending. We may even have some after party content. And then on the fourth Sunday of the month, we'll replace LAMchester with another long stream, including workshops, etc. And then on the other Sundays, we're going to come at you with a mini version, a bit of a quickie, just to keep you entertained, keep you in the loop, and give some skeleton to bolt around the Healthy Mental Practices workshop. So all of that is there. That's what we're going to be up for. We don't have a drop-in shop for you today. So I'm just going to quickly skip on with some adverts. And don't forget, we have a Telegram group chat that's running at the moment. If you want to have a text-based conversation with other Kinksters, it's a great way of doing it. You don't need to disclose your mobile. You can just download the app and connect in with everyone. Obviously, mind your P's and Q's and be sensible with what you're talking about. And I'm hoping to catch the last of the decent weather days on Wednesday. I'm going up to see a good old friend of mine, a little bit north of London, for a bit of a catch up. I've promised to take him for a pint to sit in the beer garden and chat away the wiles of the world. Last time I was up there, this is something that I recorded. If you've got your headphones in, pop them in, have a listen to this. It's recorded in 3-dimensional sound. And it kind of, every time I listen to it, it takes me back to that tranquility of a nice afternoon, reconnecting with someone and kind of coming back out into the nature and wildlife again. And don't forget, we've got the Zoom chat running this afternoon with the crew, hosted by Jerry down in Brighton. So if you're looking for people to chat to, there are the details up on the screen. And let me just go back to another piece of footage from the last event on the 6th of September. asked to make a quick plug for the Central London COVID Shielding Group, a group of people meeting and getting together on FetLife. So if you are shielding and looking for people in similar situations, that's a place to head. Because it's a difficult time for everyone at the moment, because there are some people who need to shield for their own medical reasons. There are others that are taking a different stance, and there is a middle ground with others. So it's one of those, we've all got to find the space that we're comfortable and happy with, and interact in the way that you are most comfortable and that meets your ethics. It's a difficult and challenging time, but hey, that's 2020 for you. Quick reminder as well, if you want to take a selfie, feel free to do so. Just if you post it online, hashtag it LAMLive and tag us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, FetLife, or wherever you happen to be doing stuff. Everyone that we find on Monday goes into a draw, and the winner will get a free LAMchester mug. So remember, stay home, stay safe, and above all, stay kinky. Another quick message from one of our stallholders.
Hi, Graham from Affordable Leather Products here. As you may well be aware, the London alternative market is offering advanced tickets as bonds to cover their costs during the time of lockdown. We at Affordable Leather Products have got 5 of these tickets. Oh, am I covering that over? What a shame. We're giving these tickets away. If all you have to do is subscribe to our YouTube channel, go to affordable-leather.co.uk/market, and you find the link where you can subscribe. When we get up to 100 subscribers, we'll draw the 5 lucky winners, and you can get free entry to a London alternative market when the lockdown ends and the market starts again. That link is affordable-leather.co.uk/market.
Hello, Jed Phoenix here. This is kind of a follow-on from what Phil was saying in the newbie chat about asking traders if they can do bespoke colour combinations for you so that it matches the rest of your kit. This is something that I've done on quite a few occasions. I've done the full back corset with a purple lining as opposed to red, and I've done various other bits and pieces with bespoke colour combinations. And what arrived in the post this morning, and which I've treated with ultraviolet light, rather than trying to wash it in bleach, because I don't think fabric would really like being washed in bleach. So I've received some chiffon, the chiffon top, and it is white chiffon. Oh, I need to be really careful. There's already a mark on it. I've literally just taken it out of the packet and there's a mark on it. So yeah, I will definitely be washing my hands countless times before touching more of that. The chiffon top was designed partly out of necessity. I think I've inherited some black chiffon when Velda died, and it was literally just sitting under the cutting table for ages before I actually used it. And the design came about because there was a model called Ivana Hyde, and she was going to be wearing one of my corsets and skirts for a photo shoot in Amsterdam. And because it was an outdoor shoot, there had to be something covering her boobs. So knowing that I was not going to be able to meet Ivana before the shoot because she lived in Holland, and also knowing that she had quite large breasts, I came up with a design, which I will put a picture of here. Came up with a design that was very flexible in its fit, and would allow a low profile around the waist or just above the waist, so that a corset would be worn over the top of it. So basically, the chiffon top, very light and kind of floaty. You can wear it in a couple of different ways, and it sits beautifully underneath any kind of corset, really. So yeah, I'm producing a white version of it. It's going to look badass, of course, but yes, need to wash my hands first. Yeah, and hopefully I'll get a picture of the person who's bought this white chiffon top, so that I'll be able to post that in next week's LAM Live.
Get up. We want you to get on your feet. Stand up, stand up. Come on, get loose with the heat. Right now. Think about it till you black out. So get the fuck up.
And there we have it, the stalls of LAM and LAMchester. And just so you've got their direct contact details, they're up on the screen now. First page of stalls for LAM and LAMchester. Oops. And sorry, there's LAM, second page of stalls, and LAMchester. Just a quick thank you for watching. Remember, please stay safe. We'll see you all as soon as we can, but until then, don't be a cockwomble. Stay indoors where you can, and absolutely no dogging on the way home, and certainly no putting up dogging events on FetLife, because you know what? That's a level of trash that I don't subscribe to be perfectly honest. Don't think the gentleman who's doing it will be listening to this, but they are out there. And I think as we move forward there will be a sea change, shall we say, in our community, and some people will be remembered for what they did at this time. Couple of special big thanks. Tall Mike, thank you for your life-saving infusion of IT that enabled us to actually keep this or launch this and get it running. Steph, thank you for building the new PC. Phil, thank you for your newbie content. Jerry, for content and your assistance and managing the Zoom chat. Zoe, for your perseverance during testing and some of your content. MsstGlamBitch for your slideshows. Rigelian for your pictures. Stalls for your support and messages. And everyone else for just being damn decent human beings. You know what? Because given the choice, I think most people will be a decent human being. There's a couple of exceptions to the rule, but you know what? There's not a lot we can do other than hold decent workshops, try and educate them, and make them realise that actually the greater majority of people are in that camp as opposed to the cockwombling nasty business. So let me just change windows a second. As I said, thank you all for watching, and we'll look forward to catching you soon.